What's up, guys? Welcome back to Post Pro Podcast. This is episode 6, and we have a stacked cast today. First of all, I'd like to say that Sebastian is back.
I have returned.
Sebastian.
I have returned. I've returned from the depths of hell, and I'm back.
He's back.
Depths of pizza hell, you may say?
Yes, of pizza corona hell. Yes, I'm back.
And we'd also like to say hello to these new faces. We have Michael all the way at the bottom. And we have Noah over here right under me.
Yeah.
Hey.
Welcome, guys. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
Post Pro Podcast.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, so let's hop in right to it. Movie news. This is the first thing, I think, probably the most important thing we're going to talk about this entire podcast. New Mutants.
Is it delayed again?
Well, yeah, but Disney has come out with the official release date later this year.
Wow.
Wow. The fourth official release date? How many times?
I think it's
like the
seventh.
Seventh, man.
New
Oh my God.
is scheduled for an August 28th theatrical release this year.
It's not happening.
It's not. It's going to get canceled again, dude.
It's cursed. It's cursed.
You're going to
What was the first announcement of this movie? Like, when did they first say?
Like 2016, dude.
What was the first
started
trailer?
filming like 4
Yeah, the
years ago.
first trailer came out, I think, September of 2017.
It's been a while.
Okay. Oops. That's a
It
big.
was
oops
supposed.
right
It was
there.
supposed to drop, I think, April of 2018. That was like its first. That was like its original release date. And it's
Was there an October release date at some point? Like, I thought it was like a spooky. Like,
Yeah,
I thought they were aiming for. Okay.
There was, but then, or was there an October?
that was the second release date.
Yeah.
18.
It blurs
And
together.
then-
Here. It blurs together.
And then it was supposed to release then Big Rona, and they didn't want to like put their big budget film just straight onto Disney Plus. So
But is it a big budget? I mean, it can't be.
I mean, at this point.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think Disney just wants as much money as they can get from the rest of the Fox properties that they do have. So
Yeah.
that's
Although,
the
I don't
last
know.
line, man.
I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if like the release was very underwhelming and they just like don't really market it that much because I mean, there doesn't really seem like much of a point to it at this point.
it's definitely fallen off from the glory days
Yeah.
we've ever
Like,
had.
I mean, I don't really think anybody's that excited for it, but who knows?
Yeah, the only
So
people I
pumped.
can see actually going
Well.
to see it are like people who I don't know.
Yeah.
Who's
Yeah.
not seeing it.
Yeah.
I've been following it for too long. I can't not see it at this point. It's kinda
Right,
like-
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a train wreck. But I got to see it through.
Do you guys want to hear breaking news?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Eric Andre's Bad Trip is going to Netflix.
I
Oh,
saw
it's
that.
going
That
to
was,
Netflix?
that was actually
Yep.
the second thing I had written down. Yeah.
Yep.
I've seen it's on a VOD, but
That was an accident.
really?
Yeah, they accidentally released it.
hilarious.
Yeah, they accidentally released it on Amazon Video, and a whole bunch of people bought it, and then they took it down, and now it's going to Netflix.
Damn.
Yeah, because Netflix just acquired it. Yeah. They don't.
I've seen some good reviews of it, though. I'm excited to watch it.
Oh no, I'm so hyped, dude! I'm so
Yeah, dude.
hyped. I saw him live do stand up, and his stand up special from one of the tours he was on is also going to Netflix. So a double dose of Eric Andre is going to Netflix, and I'm super
Hell
excited.
yeah.
Nice.
That's going to be sweet.
And then one other thing I had written down was I thought this was kind of funny. So because of Corona, you know, most of the film festivals have
Yeah.
been canceled or delayed.
And today was supposed to be Cannes, right?
I don't know if it was today, but
It was within this
I
last
think it was
week.
around. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
recently.
But the Oldenburg Film Festival, which is Germany's big one, Pornhub is set to stream it.
Gotta bump those numbers.
They're going to be
Gotta
the
bump those
main
numbers.
streamer.
Wow.
So, interesting.
How's that gonna work?
Do you know if that's like a
You know how it
copyright
works.
law thing?
You know
Well,
how
I
that site
mean,
works.
anyone can upload something to Pornhub. It's just how long does it take, get to taken down? So I mean,
Well, I
like,
mean,
there's a
they're
bunch of
going to like
movies
live
there.
stream it. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But do you know how weird
Yeah,
it's gonna be for like people like us that want to like see the film festival to go onto Pornhub and then look at the live stream? Oh, it's just gonna be like recommended like gay porn videos on the side. You know how weird that's gonna be?
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
What's the
that's
website
just
called again? Never heard of it.
Yeah.
funny stuff.
All right.
And so then we can hop right into I saw that Poland they're resuming their film production slate May 18th. So that's new. And then of course Hong Kong and China have said that they're getting ready to open up theaters.
Again. Yeah. They opened it mid-March, right?
I don't know.
They opened mid-March for a couple weeks, and then they were afraid of not afraid. They were seeing a second wave start to come up, so then they shut down again.
Yeah. Okay.
The Wuhan area.
I think it was like last week or 2 weeks ago. They were like, okay, we're going to start up again, and because they have this this cool roster of movies that I think they're going to re-release. You know, they have like Inception, Avatar, the Avengers films. Those are all set to get re-released.
It's pretty cool.
There, yeah, that is kind of cool. Speaking of Avatar, I saw a picture. Sorry, I meant to mention this earlier.
Oh yeah, I did.
I saw a picture of underwater motion capture they're doing for Avatar 2.
It's still happening.
Yeah,
it's somewhere.
Honestly, that picture I saw, it was pretty interesting because it's not like a pool. It's just a bunch of like gel beads in a pool. They're covered in like motion capture gear.
That's something.
I thought you were going to talk about how much it costs. Did you see how much it costs to make? Is it going to make to like all of them or whatever?
The billion.
I wouldn't be surprised
like
if it's over $1 billion. Yeah,
it was $1 billion.
That's just
Jesus
production costs.
Christ.
It's not even going to marketing and all that.
Yeah,
that good
stuff.
They'll make it back. You know?
No, they won't.
I mean, if they have 4 movies,
yeah,
I don't
know.
First, like, there might be. Yeah, exactly.
I've never actually even watched it.
I don't like it.
I like it. I think it's good.
Yeah, I think it's good, but not like great or anything.
Sure. Yeah.
I
think it was ahead of its
sequel
time.
problem. Like it's going to be. I mean, barring for certain Marvel properties, right? Sequels typically start going down.
Yeah.
It's for the big franchises. I don't know if people are going to care in the same way they did in 2008 when it came out.
2009.
It's so long.
2009. Okay. And so once you've already committed to doing all these ones back to back, which is to save on production costs and all that, which I get. But now you're in the hole for 4 extra movies. When the first one does bad, you might have cut it off after the third, but now we've already started. I guess you can maybe, because they're not doing post-production yet on all of them, I think they're doing that in order. Yeah. But still, you've already sunk in the hole again, $250 million per movie. And that's just like, I know they'll release it. They have to now at this point. But like,
I mean, there's gonna. I have no doubt that there's gonna be hype. Maybe not as much as the first one, and I think with every movie come release, it's gonna maybe go down depending on how the second one does. But I mean,
also, because the first one did really well because of IMAX
technology,
right? So like,
it was so advanced,
3D,
dude.
Yeah,
the 3D was so like groundbreaking.
Which is why I bring up this underwater motion capture because that's they're pretty much experimenting with that. This is the first time that's been done. So
I've seen Moana. It was pretty good water in Moana.
Yeah.
So. They've already figured
all animation. This is real people.
Hey, speaking of really good water, have you seen Surf's Up?
Dude, Surf's Up has great animated water.
It really does.
It really does.
It's kind of an underrated film in all aspects.
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
All right, so let's hop into the whole business side of this movie theater thing going on, opening, closing, and that's why we brought in Michael. He's the expert. Michael,
he does, yeah.
Take it over.
Verified expert. Clearly know everything I'm talking about, so don't take anything with a grain of salt. So we just want to talk about the general opening, like what's going on. What does opening entail for a movie theater, right? So some states have opened up already. As I think Georgia was the first one said, movie theaters get in here, do it. To which point the theater said, no, we're not going to open because there's a few reasons here, right? They don't have any new movies, social distancing and all that. What I've seen, no one has put out a plan for how they're going to do it. They put out ideas and stuff. But there's a lot of stuff they need to figure out. So I've got here Mark Zerati, I don't know. Mark Zerati, he's the Cinemark CEO, and he is confirmed on a conference call a month ago now that if the theaters open at 25 to 30% capacity, which has been like the phase 1 levels they've been allowed, they said they can do that and operate at a profit. Basically, they can do that. They can do it, and they're not going to be going under. He didn't really go into what levels of concessions purchases there are for that, which is really the big factor there, or what 25% actually looks like. Because again, you've got to think, if I'm a group of 3 people, right? You assume as a theater, okay, you're buying your tickets together. You could sit them together. We're assuming here. So social distancing is 6 feet. Is that 6 feet from 6 feet back behind you? So now you've got to sit 2 rows behind me. Or is it, just down the sides? And so how do you group off who's going
I think we lost him.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Cut off mid-sentence. Wonderful.
He's still frozen.
Yeah. I mean, if we're all seeing it, that's not a great sign.
Okay. I thought I was looking at you guys, and I'm like, okay, am I the only one seeing this man?
No, I was trying to laugh. Michael, can you hear us?
That's a great.
It does not seem like you can hear us.
Oh no.
Okay, so he's probably gonna
chat, gentlemen.
Yeah, great.
That's.
I'm assuming he's probably gonna have to rejoin because it doesn't seem like his connection is getting any better.
He just texted me. He says I lost internet.
Okay, that's great.
And he's gone.
Oh man.
Okay.
I'm not
Just quarantine things. No, just
I
quarantine
I don't want
things
to
right
cut
there.
that. That was funny. That was really funny.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, all right. So on topic of like theaters reopening, on the topic of not having the movies to put in there, I definitely think that a lot of these things going straight to VOD could not, and they could pull that. But I'd love to see like reruns of like classic movies, because even if I can watch Inception just on Netflix, I still pay to go see Inception at
Oh,
theaters.
definitely. Yeah.
It's Inception. Like, if they ran a Nolan marathon and I just gotta watch all of Nolan's movies,
That'd be awesome.
okay.
New Mutants for Disney Plus.
I mean, hey, August
We gotta see it in
28th,
theaters, dude. You gotta see it in theaters.
if it gets canceled again, then straight to D+.
It should already be on Disney Plus, dude. It's been delayed like 8
Yeah.
times at
I
this
mean, come
point.
on. I wouldn't be surprised if they just kept on delaying it. But I
Dude,
also wouldn't be surprised.
Have
if did
have they put anything like straight to D+, no theater release? I know they put on
Yeah,
really
Artemis
fast.
Fowl. Artemis Fowl
Right,
is
yeah,
going straight
right.
to
Artemis
Disney
Fowl,
Plus.
Yeah, but like, at least New Mutants looks like it's a shred of like care put into it. Artemis
Well,
Fowl just.
Artemis Fowl had like $125 million budget.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
like a
pretty
huge
crazy.
budget, and Kenneth Branagh is like a well-known director, so it's not like nothing.
What
although I see
has
what
she
you're saying.
done?
Like the
Kenneth Branagh?
Thor movies is I think the main
Yeah.
one, and like Hamlet,
Lots of
one of the
Shakespeare.
adaptations.
He's done
Yeah.
several Shakespeare adaptations.
Yeah, no, but like,
Oh, okay.
I just think they should honestly shove it at Disney Plus. I mean, they're not. Okay, I know Disney's all about money, but in terms of Artemis Fowl, I just don't think they're confident enough in that property to pull in seats.
No,
I think
I
that's
agree.
why they shoved it on Disney Plus. And the thing with New Mutants is like, oh well, since this is like the last Fox property of the X-Men we really have, we might as well just shove it on Disney Plus. Throw it in the theater. But I honestly think they're going to lose more money putting it in the theaters if they just shoved it on demand.
That's also a very fair point.
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't know. I mean, I guess it really depends, especially because, again, there's not a lot of excitement for New Mutants, but pushing something to VOD definitely does reduce its profit by a lot.
Well, and then on top of that, Dark Phoenix really underperformed.
Bombed.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
that's true.
It did more than underperform.
Dude, we had cups for Dark Phoenix months after it released,
I remember
and we
that,
just
yeah.
started giving them out because no one
Yeah.
cared. No one cared about that movie, and like,
Jesus.
dude, I don't think it's a good idea for them to even release it. But Disney's Disney; they can do whatever they want. So
Whoa,
Here he comes. He's back.
bad.
He's back.
There we go. All right. See, that is big movie
Welcome
theater
back.
industry trying to take me down
Yeah, dude.
for exposing
They're
the
listening in.
coronavirus situation. Okay?
It's big theater.
Cineworld's listening. Everyone,
They're coming
straight up.
down. Yeah, no, they know they're about to get exposed for the frauds they are. I don't even know what they're doing. Do you know where we cut it off? Because it took me a solid 30
Dude,
minutes.
I have no idea.
I mean, it
You
was like
were-
mid-sentence.
The
I
last
was-
thing you
Yeah.
said was 6 feet back, 6 feet in front, 6 feet to the sides.
All right, 6 feet to the sides, all that. All right, good stuff. So yeah, in smaller theaters, that's going to cause a lot more problems because if you have a 400-seat theater, obviously you have a lot more room to work with as far as how far back you can go. If you have 6 rows, then
Right.
Front row, you got
Here we
three
go.
person. Is it still like?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
we can hear
thought,
you
I thought
now.
you went out there for another.
I thought I did too. Yeah, I was like, hold
I
on.
think you did.
look at Sebastian's head when we try to...
He's just disappearing into his.
No, dude.
That's the real entertainment here.
All right.
Yeah, so you start
Sebastian.
running into issues with smaller theater chains for sure.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, he's frozen, so it doesn't look like he's coming back.
I just
He's back. He's back. He's back.
All right. I've got
I
one bar
hope
Wi-Fi.
Sebastian can see what we're seeing too.
Oh, he should be able to. Oh God.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
See, my thing is Sebastian's kind of been lagging too. Do you think there's any chance because of the custom backgrounds?
You know what? Baby.
I've seen Sebastian.
I'll throw it
cut out a
off.
couple
Let me see.
times. Yeah.
Using
Is it
too much
nice?
power.
Mm-hmm.
Too much production value.
Yeah, dude.
Sorry for bringing something to the table here.
Damn.
All right, guys. Here we go. Nice.
Ooh,
You want to look up?
That's a nice background.
Who is this? That's Justin Bieber. Yep, that's
Oh,
right.
hell yeah.
Okay.
Incredible.
All right. Anywho, I don't know if I want to close this out and break it. All right, there we go. See, obviously, smaller theaters are going to have a lot bigger issues with that. And you've got to think, right? You've got people, you're opening to the public again. So on the one hand, who's going to feel, I mean, for you guys, I guess, would you feel safe immediately going back into a theater if they opened up next week?
No.
No?
I mean, that's
See?
just me personally, but I definitely would not.
I probably would, but
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's just because I want to watch movies.
Cinephile,
Part of me
exactly.
is just like, I just need to go to the theater, you know, or nothing beats that experience.
Need to get my fix. I'm
Yeah,
jonesing
dude.
over here.
I just need to break into Bill Murray's house and go to his private theater.
Yeah, and then he acts like he's
Kill
a
him.
zombie.
Then you kill
And
him.
then RIP
And
Bill
you
Murray.
kill him.
So yeah, we got about a split, I guess, 2-on-2 and a halfway through. Sebastian's going to kill Bill Murray. So if you opened up, who all is coming? Because there's a lot of stuff out there of how people are reacting to this. Yeah, I know. Thank you, Sebastian. So you're opening, and you're not even sure that people are coming, and it's something where you can market all you want. It's going to be hard to convince certain people to come out there, and there's really not a ton they can do about that. On top of that, you're opening for less people, but you're going to need more staff. Some of the proposed things that some theaters have put out. Should we get this together here?
Hey, movie and theater employees, more money.
That never happened.
Absolutely no way.
Not happening.
There's
ever.
no way.
Definitely not happening during a recession.
If anything, they would hire people for less. They would,
Yeah.
So what they've
for
done.
less? How?
yeah, just go back to the industrial revolution.
Yeah.
$7 an hour, unlimited concessions.
Hiring kids.
Yeah, that's what they do.
That have to go on break every 3 hours.
Now this will work them to death.
But okay, so they've suggested face masks for all employees, social distancing, obviously, as well as wiping down all the seats in the theaters between each show.
Wow.
Okay. Another thing they've put forward, AMC put this one forward, was taking the temperatures of guests when they come in.
Yeah,
And
the fever isn't like the only thing.
look, people have been shot for less in the last month for just saying, "Hey, wear a mask." So if I'm an employee, someone's wanting their fever taken, their temperature taken,
Yeah.
I'm not touching you. How much you paying again? We said minimum wage, less than minimum. All right, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you enforce that? On top of, again, you need more staff to do that. And as we've seen through working there, I don't know, Noah. I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
So, but as we've seen, theaters obviously run on a very shoestring budget, and so they're very reticent to staff to appropriate levels. And so, if they're already going to be dealing with less people coming in, less revenue, how do they balance that? You know what I mean? I have seen that theaters, they're talking to studios for their lineup, because again, part of the issue is they don't have any new movies. And some studios apparently they're opening up their full catalog, which is good for people who want to see old movies. And they're doing it at reduced rates. Goes into the whole. I don't know how much do you guys ever get into box office accounting, like how
not
structures.
typically.
Okay, so
Not really.
we need a quick overview here. Is the way it's usually structured is in the first week, the studio is going to get about 90% of the ticket sales. It's going to go straight to them. Second week, maybe 80, and then third week, maybe 60%. And it keeps going in a progressive structure to the longer a movie is in theaters, the more money the actual theater is getting. When a new release comes through, the studios can get more of that actual ticket price.
So that explains why Thor Ragnarok was in our theater for like a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Explains why Jumanji was in there for so long too.
Oh my God.
Hangover 1, I think, was in theaters at our theater. This was before I started working there, but I remember noticing it. It was in our theaters for like 7 months. Like no kidding. It was on DVD, and we were still showing it like 4 times a day. And so to kind of balance that for the theaters to not just carry old movies is obviously a new release is going to drive more traffic to your theater, and where they're getting a majority of their money is from concessions, because obviously they're keeping 100% of that revenue is be going straight to them, which is why you get the markups on popcorn and drinks of 1,000%. It can cost electricity, materials, all that 7 cents for a large popcorn. You're charging, I don't know, at this point it's like $9.25 plus tax, something like that.
That's pretty crazy.
And so that's where they're getting in. An important caveat to the structure for payment is the studio or the theater does get it's called the nut, right? So the studio or the theater gets the nut first, and so that's to cover their expenses, and then the grosses are on top of that.
I have heard of the nut.
Okay, you've heard of the nut.
No, you've heard of the nut.
Yeah.
I think I've heard of the nut too.
I'm familiar with the nut.
We all know about the nut here. But yeah, so that's where the theaters, if they do open up, they're going to be getting more of the revenue from the tickets to kind of help them along, which is good for the studios because obviously for now, if the theaters go under, that's an issue for them. And the studios need the theaters to open up and gain consumer confidence in the movie theater experience so that by the time they release Mulan, Tenet, stuff like that, people will be actually coming up and showing up for it.
Right.
Tenet, very
Good
exciting.
points.
But
Tenet.
new thing, actually Christopher Nolan, very exciting for him. He's, I guess, a big proponent of the theater experience, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's probably why they're still sticking to it very vehemently. It's far enough in the distance where they can say, we can aim for this day. And also, he's not going to want to release his movie on a streaming platform like Troll World. Sorry. All right. I didn't watch it. I don't have kids. So I'm not as much of a kid as I used to be. It didn't interest me. But I guess Unhinged is now the new Target movie. You familiar? Yeah.
I actually saw a trailer for it on Netflix, or not on Netflix, on Instagram. But it's just one of the many films getting released on VOD right now. Does that mean
Unhinged is releasing in theater on July 1st.
Oh yeah, I did actually see that.
Wait, what is that? I haven't even
Unhinged is
it's a Russell Crowe movie about him going insane and hunting down a family.
Yeah, Jimmy Simpson, Russell Crowe, and there's a main woman. I've never seen her before.
Yeah.
They dropped the trailer, I think, yesterday, the day before, and that was a new thing is that they're aiming for that to be the first big release instead of Tenet now. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, it said July 1st select theaters, so I wonder what theaters are going to take it.
I assume that would mean if your state is still closed, you can't do it.
Yeah, good point.
But it raises an interesting point of, okay, so now we think they're aiming for July 1st. Some theaters are aiming for July 1st. What's the lead time on ramping up operations again? Because you're going to need to train your staff. You're going to need to get staff back. You're going to have to go through basically a test run of all these new operations, see how it's going, what needs to change that. But on the flip side, there's also a chance that theaters just don't do it. Like they just might not do anything about it. Like they might have the standards in place and just not do anything. If you'd seen in Dallas, Texas opened May 1st. And so Mark Cuban, what a guy. All the money in the world. So he hired a mystery shopping program to survey, go around to some of the restaurants in Dallas the first weekend that they were open. So May 1st to May 3rd. They called 1,000 places that were popular. They used, I don't know, TripAdvisor or something Yelp to say that, okay, these people go there. So they called 1,000 of these places, found that 36% of them were opening because it was all voluntary. But of the ones that did open, they went to 300 in person, and they were basically seeing, are they following safety protocols? What are they doing? And so they found that 96% of them weren't compliant in some fashion. So whether it be they didn't do one thing right or they just didn't do anything right, they found 96 weren't compliant in some fashion. So there's only 4% of businesses that were open that were actually doing everything they were supposed to. And they're mostly finding that was on average, it seems like places were doing about half of what they should do. So there's mandatory protocols and there's suggested protocols by CDC. They're basically doing about half of each. So 100% a possibility that the theaters open, say, hey, we have these practices in place to further liability. But when it comes, push come shove in person, they just don't do it. And I mean, I could see that very much happening.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
crazy.
definitely at least a few theaters are not going to fully.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
Yeah.
A few theaters are definitely not going to follow that protocol.
No. I mean, because it's, again, you're looking at the, shame on us, but the quality of worker we have, you're going to pay for. I just don't see it happening. I really don't see it. And not everywhere, but I can see a lot of stuff falling through the cracks. The 50% of following safety protocols sounds about right, where you can say, okay, we're going to keep people, so we have lines on the ground for people to be socially distant. I don't know if we're going to tell people to do it, but the lines are there, so we're safe now. We tried.
Make it responsible for the people.
Yeah. It was weird, though. So we have from what I can tell, most theaters have reserved seating now. AMC, Cinemark, all that good stuff. Use reserved seating. So I thought that'd be an easier thing to do to control your social distancing. But apparently they're just done away with reserved seating for it because they just didn't think it worked. But I figure you could at least retool it to say, okay, we've got this group of people has bought a ticket here, block off these seats around them, and now, you know what I mean? But
but as we've experienced ourselves, there are certain people, actually I would say the majority of like regular moviegoers, who only like to sit in their one specific spot. And it doesn't matter if there's someone sitting right next to them or like surrounding them.
Yeah.
They're going to sit there and they're going to make a big deal about it.
They're going to get the Rona.
Exactly. But do they care? No, they'll blame it on us.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, so Sebastian, you're a nice usher guy. You too, Thomas. So how long does it take to clean a typical theater of, say, I don't know, 30 people in it? I mean, obviously it varies.
3 minutes?
Like
3 minutes?
Like
okay.
2-3 minutes.
So if we're thinking it takes 3 minutes just to clean the stuff, just regular trash, which I assume it's been a month and a half, right? A month and a half since things kind of shut down. People just don't know how to interact with society, right? They're just animals now. So if they go to a theater, trash everywhere. Like I'm just spitballing here, but trash everywhere because they've been at home then they just don't.
It's about right.
So it's going to be worse than it was before. So we're going to bump that up to 4 minutes. And so now you've got a 4 minute time. There's usually about, 20 minutes in between start times and end times, right? Does that sound about right? Or like the previous start?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we've got that. And now you've got 30 seats that you need to thoroughly clean.
No.
45 seconds to go down through, wipe everything. 40 is a lot. 30 seconds to go through and they consider it thoroughly cleaned. So another 15 minutes of just cleaning seats. Like, I just don't see how they do it. I don't see how they do it with the way things are structured now and without taking on a bunch of costs to have more staff, at which point there's a certain break-even point where it costs more money to open, obviously, than it is to be closed. My internet connection's unstable. Exciting. Anyways, theaters need to figure out their break-even point as far as, put it simplistically, if they're closed, they might know for sure their expenses are $100, but if they open up, Their expenses could be $200, it could be $300, and it all kind of depends. They don't know how much it's going to be, so they can control for their costs a lot easier if they just stay closed, and if they don't have a good idea of what the projections are going to be for opening up. And again, I think realistically, what's going to happen is they're going to put these systems in place. People aren't going to follow them. They're going to say we have it, and it's going to turn into. I work with the mystery shopping company. Oh, is it frozen again? No, we're good.
No.
Yeah, we just didn't hear what you said that one.
All right. Well. Oh no.
Oh God.
What's with these stills, man? They're all so good.
Dang.
Oh man.
I feel bad. He was
This
so excited to come on and talk about this stuff.
Well,
so while we're seeing what Michael happens, when do you guys actually when do you see, specifically just the movie theater experience going back, returning to normalcy?
September.
wow.
Yeah. Maybe not quite that long, but for movie theaters especially. Well, I don't know. I mean,
I've never had these problems before.
Sucks.
Never had these problems.
So weird.
And now Zoom is on it. It's destroying my laptop.
It's Cinefix. Cinefix?
Cinefix.
Cinema. Big cinema.
Big cinema.
Big cinema.
I'm gonna break my laptop.
But we were while you were missing there for a second, Michael. We briefly started to talk about when do you think the movie going experience could return to normalcy? Sebastian said maybe September.
Rephrase the question when I have good internet. What was the question again?
Did you not hear me?
No, not at all.
I said
honestly, text me the question.
Okay. So I'll just continue saying what I was saying. I
yeah,
guess.
go ahead.
I don't know if it'll necessarily be. I mean, obviously, it probably won't be normal until September at the earliest.
Right. Like you
probably
were saying,
a little bit later. But I mean, and I guess it depends on who you're talking about. I probably wouldn't want to go to see a movie in a theater until at least September. Yeah, but definitely I'm sure all of you would probably. I mean, maybe not Sebastian, but the rest of you would want to see theaters a lot because you like being in theaters, I guess. And I mean, so do I. But I just think something that crowded, a movie theater, is probably the most crowded place I can think of.
It's a very at-risk place.
Yeah, it's enclosed. It's pretty dirty, especially in terms of germs, because
Sticky,
it's a super enclosed space.
Grimy.
So, I mean, I'm sure there are other I'm sure most people are like me. Well, maybe not most, but a significant amount at least in terms of how many people go to movie theaters. So yeah, it definitely won't go back to normal until probably September, November. I mean, at the absolute earliest, but it could definitely be a gradual ramp up. And
sure, just with what restaurants you're doing now.
Yeah, and I mean, not even even if restaurants or theaters say okay, we're opening fully back up by July or August or whatever, I still don't think as many people will be willing to go unless the situation completely changes.
Because there are going to be people hesitant or reserved about doing anything, even when things start to break up. But then there are going to be people who just do not care at all.
They're already.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
already
breaking.
I mean, the protests and all. It's
pretty crazy.
We're
living in a crazy world right now.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so I remember
Michael texted me. He said he's going to try and he's going to download the Zoom app and see if it works better on his phone.
Yeah, I think that's probably his problem.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's
necessarily
using the
his
browser.
problem. But...
It's probably his internet though. So I mean, if he has good cellular data,
I assume it will work better from the phone though.
Yeah, I can see that working better.
But
so I guess we can start this moving on to the next topic, so we can make sure we're continuing on a decent pace, even if the pace has already been very slowed. So I remember you guys talking about some Amazon AMC thing. Does anyone here know anything about that?
I think we all said no, right?
Yeah.
I heard of it, but I never did any reading into it. So
it looks like maybe Amazon is going to buy AMC.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking it up, so I'm figuring this out on the go.
Okay, because that is like Jordan brought up a couple podcasts ago how AMC was bankruptcy.
Bankrupt, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazon.
Well, that would also
by
give
AMC.
Amazon the benefit of only showing Amazon movies at AMC as well, probably. That'd be exclusivity.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Actually.
Because do you
it
remember,
looks
Maybe.
Colin, we went and saw, or no, who was it? Me and you, Colin? Yeah, we saw Honey Boy.
Honey Boy, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but
Honey Boy was showing.
No.
in all
Yeah.
theaters.
I know, but I'm saying that's going to give them that's definitely going to give them an exclusivity deal
If
for
you
people
want
to go out.
a theater experience
Yeah.
of a Amazon Prime Video film, then you're gonna have to go to a AMC theater.
Yep.
Which is a thought. I mean, they already have the A branding.
Well, and then Universal, that whole debacle.
Little happening.
The little
We'll see.
happening.
Now there's going to be like exclusivity deals like in movie theaters like there isn't with like video games and stuff. Like, hey, you can only play Gears of War on Xbox. Now it's going to be like you can only see Amazon movies in AMC.
That's actually a good comparison. I didn't even think of it like that.
That's like literally what it's basically going to end up being.
Let's see.
Okay.
Hey, there we go.
Modern.
Okay.
What is happening?
All right, there we go. Modern problems, guys. Modern solutions.
So we moved on to. So now we're talking about the AMC Amazon thing. How Amazon.
That's more
planning on
exciting,
buying-
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hop into it. Tell us what you know, because we don't know much.
Oh, I know a lot. I got numbers. I got facts. I got speculation. Okay.
Ooh.
So, I think it's important to kind of start out with this is all rumored stuff, unsubstantiated claims. Amazon has not come out confirming there's been talks. AMC has not come out. No one's just anonymous sources, right? But apparently, Amazon is looking to buy AMC Entertainment, as was reported initially. Since then, there's been a second report that's come out saying it could be AMC, whatever the TV station, right? The network station. But the biggest reporting has been on AMC, the movie theater chain, which would make some sense because they were obviously reports of them possibly going for bankruptcy a few weeks ago. And so looking at what that entails, AMC is worth about their market value is up $500 million. So that's all their outstanding market shares or stock shares. All that value together is about $500 million. But they have, very excitingly, $4.7 billion of debt. So they're
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of debt. So their enterprise value, which is basically what a company is paying, is going to have to pay to buy a company. It's going to be their debt plus their market share, market cap. And then you take out all their cash and cash equivalents, which would be short-term bonds, stuff like that. Basically liquid things. Makes their enterprise value is around basically $5 billion for them to buy. It's 4.9 and some change, so it should say $5 billion for simplicity's sake, which is a lot of money, right? It's a lot of money. But Amazon also bought Whole Foods, 3 years ago, and that was like a $14 billion purchase. So,
really? Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's not unheard of for Amazon to be throwing in a lot of money to break into a new area. And obviously you can argue, what value did Amazon get from buying Whole Foods? I would say not much. But it gave them physical presence without having to do that themselves. And then obviously they integrated it with Amazon Prime, which has been their whole goal for a lot of stuff. The head of Amazon Studios, Jennifer Salke, has said that everything they do is designed to enhance or drive Prime subscriptions. So that kind of goes in hand with what they could do if they go through with this, if the reports are true and they end up actually trying to purchase a movie studio. I don't know. Just open. I'll stop there for now. Thoughts?
Yeah. Well, that's like what Sebastian was saying with like possible theater chain exclusivity for films. If Amazon purchased AMC, then maybe all Amazon productions will be exclusive to AMC theaters then.
We'll see. This is kind of what was going on with Trolls 2 World Tour
Hey, there it is.
R.I.P. Right? And when that first all went down in AMC through BF, my take on it was once Regal came out and supported that, because I'm kind of nihilistic on the outlook of the theater industry as far as it being the way it is now and has been. So my thought is, all right, so Regal, you see what AMC is doing, you say, all right, cool. Well, Universal, we'll help. We'll do that. We'll stream it. Sure. We just want a higher cut then. If you're going to stream it, we'll still show it in our theaters. And so now you've already got that kind of exclusivity with, if you're going to work with the studios, then you're fine. But if Amazon goes the route of purchasing a theater itself, theater chain, and mind you, AMC is the largest theater chain in the world. They have 11. It's AMC and Odeon in the UK, but they have 11,000 theaters, and compared to Cineworld now, which is obviously Regal, has about 9,500. So if they purchase a theater chain, then for the longest time, as Netflix, Hulu, not so much, but Netflix and Amazon, as they've been putting out their own movies that they want in award contention and stuff like that, the whole theater release window has been a big thing. And they can completely bypass that if they just buy a theater chain. So that way they're able to do what they want, which is drive Amazon Prime subscriptions by releasing new content in streaming format, simultaneously releasing it in a big theater. Colin, I'm sure you would rather watch The Irishman in a big theater, right?
I actually did.
Okay, see, there you go. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So there's people, basically you solve that problem. You're catering to both sides of the equation. You got people who aren't going to want to go spend the money, but you already got them in on Amazon Prime. Furthermore, if Amazon releases a movie right now, and let's be real, Amazon deals, they started in books, but realistically they deal in data, right? So they collect a lot of consumer data, and that's how they make their money long term. Right now, if they release a movie to a theater, they don't get any of the ticket sales metrics, basically, as far as who's purchasing what, when, that kind of stuff. If they purchase a theater, then they have a whole new, basically, data ecosystem they can pull from for movie trends, and that could affect what kinds of movies they make when they release certain kind of movies. They will have just, again, different access to it. On top of, there's ways to integrate Amazon Prime with a theater model if they're fully pushing into a theater service, because you can do things like, a lot of places obviously have loyalty programs, but you have AMC has subs
subs and A-list.
So yeah, you get discounts and stuff that way. So you would just basically Amazon Prime it. So now if you have Amazon Prime, then you get certain discounts or you get free tickets, kind of thing. And you could do it certainly a tiered thing where Amazon does it right now with Prime Music, I think they call it, whatever their music service is. If you have Prime, you get it for free. If you can buy like Prime Now or something like that, whatever it's called. And you can basically, it turns it into a Spotify, and you can do like all their music. So they could have like a tiered system to, again, get people to pay more. So while it is again, nihilistically, a dying industry in the way it is now, I think it's going to go more the way of smaller independent theaters or places more like Alamo Drafthouse, that kind of stuff, where it's more of a curated experience versus how things are now. But if they get into it, even though it's a dying experience, it opens up a lot of possibility down the line, and they can work with other studios who are wanting to release their stuff in streaming. So if Universal's saying, we want to release some of our stuff too, they know that Amazon AMC will work with them, or in theory should work with them, when Regal won't. And so then they'll go with them, which will cause some sort of contention with the NATO, not the world peace one, but the other one.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. But I like it for them.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, it's definitely a smart move on Amazon's part because, especially when you compare it to something like Whole Foods, like they're only really, obviously it depends on location, but there are only really like 3 big theater chains at most, and AMC is like the biggest one. So, and it'll cost a lot less, at least in the short term, for purchasing.
Amazon gets a lot of profit from Whole Foods. Amazon gets a lot of profit from Whole Foods, though.
Yeah, because it helps with their streamlining, basically their delivery
Amazon
system.
grocery. Yeah.
Just to put in perspective again real quick, Amazon currently has unrestricted cash equivalents, again, so it's not necessarily free cash, but stuff they can liquidize in the next 3 months, of $36.4 billion. So that's $36 billion that just aren't basically tied to anything right now. No projects, no expected usage of it. So take $5 billion off the top. Now we got 11,000 theaters. Like I don't know.
It's pretty crazy.
For a long-term growth strategy, if they're trying to, I just think it's a lot right now, obviously, but I think it makes sense if they think the industry is going to go the way that it seems to be moving.
Cool. Yeah. It's genius.
So again, this kind of plays in with the Paramount consent decrees. Yeah, you guys familiar with those? I think we're all right. So this was basically, and it's actually interesting this is happening during coronavirus because this all came about in the first place because of the Spanish flu back in like 1904, whatever it was. So prior to 1948, studios owned theaters, right? They owned the full distribution chain of, they made the movie, they distributed the movie, they exhibited the movie. 1948, Department of Justice comes around and they do this whole thing, and so it goes to Supreme Court, actually all the way to the top, and they decide that basically it's a violation of antitrust laws to have the studios own that full chain, and so studios aren't allowed to own theater chains up to that point or after that point, and it affected 6 of the big ones, just like Paramount and all that. So that was, I guess, maybe like your golden age, silver age of Hollywood.
Yeah, I actually have heard of that, where a bunch of like smaller filmmakers were trying to show their movies, and then they were like, the studio heads would be like outside the door and saying, "Don't see that, go see our movie."
Yeah, I mean,
film history 101.
Yep.
If you own the theater, you can say, "Oh, you wouldn't." All right, so say again, Amazon owns it. Say, "Oh, you want to see a Netflix movie? Netflix movies aren't showing here," and that's a different thing because it's streaming and all that. But like, if I guess Universal owns a theater, and everyone has a streaming service nowadays, but if Universal owns a theater and they say we're not showing Disney movies, so that's where kind of that issue came into play. But last year, Department of Justice, a lovely man of the name, let me butcher this, Makan Delrahim, I don't know. He's the chief of the antitrust division, and basically he started going through and wanted to change any sort of rulings that were had no end date to them. And so the Paramount decree had no end date. It was just a blanket rule. Obviously, once they announced this and they started to try to look into it, NATO, again, the relatively friendly one, wasn't happy with it. And so their big concern is block booking, which is familiar with block booking?
Nope.
Yeah? No? All right. So basically, and it's a little muddy, but you would basically, so if I have Avengers, right? I have Avengers. You want to see Avengers, you have to get the distribution rights for 7 of my other movies that aren't going to do as well as Avengers to take up more screens, and you basically balance it out that way. So you basically sell a whole slate of movies at one time versus I think now they have to do individual distribution, which is kind of a strange thing though, because I've read from someone that like owns like a small independent chain, that Disney sort of still does something similar to this, where you have to show your movies on X screens for X amount of time kind of thing, which seems like a different way of doing the same thing, but like, whatever, I'm not the government, so I can't determine that. But that's the biggest concern there is studio determines, all right, well, we're showing all our movies on these screens and you got to take all of them at once kind of thing. Or again, if we have our own theater chain, either you're taking them all or you're taking none of them and we're just going to show them in our theater anyways. So, but that's kind of something that is now could possibly be a thing where studios can own theater chains again. And the argument has been that with streaming services and all that good stuff, even just HBO and things like that, the landscape for watching a movie has changed dramatically, which is, I think you could argue with, sure. Yeah. And so that they view the rules as archaic, and that basically distribution costs were historically very high, right? Because you had to do all your cellophane or whatever you call it, your film and all that. and you had to actually manually ship out. It was an expensive process. Now I send you a USB drive, right? And so my distribution cost has gone down a ton since then. And so that's not really a factor anymore. And so it's easier for studios to just be like, here you go. There you go. It's fine. And so they're basically trying to streamline that down again. And the argument is that a kind of cartel monopoly kind of thing, agreement between studios isn't likely to happen nowadays. And if it does, then the department would just step back in and break it up.
Yeah.
Which, maybe they will. Who really knows? But that's the argument they're taking with it.
So, yeah, I mean, we could be seeing a whole new era of film distribution or I guess exhibition.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I don't think the argument some people make is that the movie theater industry rather, is going to go the way of Blockbuster, which I think is a bad comparison because you make similar arguments to it, but I think they have different bases. Yeah, people would say, people like going into the store and walking around and choosing that. Same with music stores. People like going to the store and choosing. That's about procurement of the media. It's not the reception of it. So again, home theaters are getting infinitely better than they were 10, 30 years ago. That being said, I don't have, 18 speakers around the room and behind my TV to do the same thing. So, and again, there'll always be film festivals, stuff like that. And again, people who enjoy the movie theater experience, which is, I think, fundamentally different from a home theater experience, both valid in different ways. But that's where I think the comparison to Blockbuster is wrong. That being said, I think it is going to tweak over time, again, to be more like Alamo Drafthouse, where it focuses more on almost merchandising of each movie. They have exclusive, we sell buckets and T-shirts and stuff like that. There's
I think we actually mentioned that in a way, it may have been the first podcast.
Yeah,
we're talking about just how the movie industry is going to change, how it's going to show. Maybe that independent theaters will be on the rise if the bigger ones kind of.
No, I think they are. I mean, the Enzian is my favorite place to watch a movie. So I mean, I just prefer watching a movie in a very curated environment, very chill, very relaxed, good food. But honestly, I compare the movie theater industry going forward kind of like the resurgence of vinyl, because I don't think anyone really assumed vinyl would be on the comeback. And I love my vinyl player. I do. But I feel like more people are going to be they like seeing a movie in the movie theater, but it's not going to be their first choice in, say, a couple years. I think definitely streaming is going to be taking over majority of a lot of things, but it's going to be a second option, going to the movie theater. I feel like more studios are just going to release their stuff on VOD, and then, maybe they'll release it in the movie theater. Then a couple weeks after that, they'll put it on VOD. I feel like that's going to be the standard now.
Well, I've definitely heard people just say, "Oh, I'm just gonna wait for it to be released on Netflix or something." People are gonna I've already heard that.
But I feel like it's gonna be a lot quicker. I feel it's gonna be a lot quicker now. It's gonna be how it took forever for a movie to come out in DVD. I feel like now it's gonna be after 3 or 4 weeks, we're just gonna put it on VOD.
Yeah.
They're gonna get as much profit of people that are excited to see the movie in the movie theater, and then just shove it on VOD right after that.
Because now you have the physical thing,
yeah.
And you can watch it however many times you want.
Yep.
Well, so that's where the studio integration becomes a big point, because the reason movies stay in theaters obviously for so long is because the theaters need to keep them because they get more of the revenue from tickets at that point. If the studio gets full revenue from the beginning, there's no reason for them to show a movie beyond 30 days, at which point, even if they don't simultaneously release it on streaming, if they 30 days in theater and then on streaming, it gives them a lot more flexibility as to how long movies are in theaters, bringing stuff back, which is really where if Amazon goes through with the purchase, or even some other studio at some point goes through the purchase, that's really what's going to kick off the change, I think. Unless theaters are abundantly bending backwards to work with studios at some point, which always seems to not be a thing. So I think at some point a studio will just end up the studios are the supply, right? And the theaters need the studios don't necessarily need the theaters.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Good point.
But yeah, so I think coronavirus is kind of expediting. It's speeding up. It's speeding up basically something that was going to be a change in the industry at some point, regardless, just because of technology. And I think it's brought things to a point. And I mentioned earlier the Spanish flu because prior to the Spanish flu, there's a bunch of independently owned theaters. Spanish flu introduced a downturn, at which point that's when all the studios gobbled up a bunch of theater chains. So that's why there's a similar situation could be if a bunch of theaters start struggling now because of the virus, studios could then now swoop in again and pick up chains just due to the changes.
Yeah, so it'll just be interesting in general to see how this whole thing pans out at the end of this year, how we continue forward next year, how the whole structure, how the business changes. And then of course, I mean, 2020 is already going to go down in the history books, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be a thing where everyone's like, it's like a life event now, right? Where you think
absolutely
everyone of a certain age knows where they were on 9/11 kind of thing.
Yeah, where were you when Corona started, you know? That's
the thing is, like, for 3 months, what did you just do? More than that now, but like everyone has a shared experience of, because this is affecting everybody. And there's a lot of things that affects a lot of people, but very few things that every single person is dealing with it in a probably similar manner. And even if they aren't, they can at least relate to how other people are dealing with it because it's so widespread.
Where were you when Thanos snapped his fingers?
See, 23D. I don't know.
All right. Well, I guess now might be a good time to move on from the news segment.
We do have 6 minutes left.
Yeah,
we have 6 minutes left for this
the
one.
Longest news segment to date.
Michael, while you're still here,
hey, what's up?
You watch anything over anything of
note?
Yeah.
Yes. So I haven't been watching a lot of movies, really, like, honestly, but I've been watching a lot of Westworld, which I think is a good quality production.
Oh, I love it. I love Westworld. Yeah.
So like, it's not a movie. I think it's movie quality. It goes up and down, depends on the season. Season 1's the best. That's just a fact. But I did watch a couple weeks ago, The Nice Guys.
I've heard
it's an underrated gem, dude. That's an underrated gem.
movie, dude.
Yeah,
that's a great movie. I saw that back when it came out.
I saw it in theaters, did not know what it was, had never seen a trailer for it. I'm like, free movie, free ticket, whatever. Let's see it. I like Ryan Gosling. He's a sweetheart. Fantastic movie. It's really enjoyable. So yeah, that's probably the most recent one. Again, about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I'm reaching here. Time is a blur.
Yeah, I know.
You know, Ryan Gosling kick, I guess. I watched this. I mean, I don't know if earlier today I watched a scene from La La Land. I just not really watched the full movie, but I enjoyed the scene. So,
which scene?
It's when he's in the piano bar getting fired by J.K. Simmons.
Oh yeah,
it's fabulous.
It's tragic.
It's a good scene. It's a really good scene.
It's a great movie.
Yeah,
absolutely great movie.
So
quick thanks to Michael.
Yeah.
For coming on, giving us some valuable insight to the business aspects of film industry.
Yeah.
And now we're just
for sure.
Yeah. Move on to what we watched this week. How about Noah? How about we start with you, since you're new to the podcast?
Yeah, you're the guest.
Okay, sure. I mean, so obviously with quarantine, I've been watching a lot more than normal. And obviously, I haven't been on before, so I could technically start wherever I want. But
every single movie you've watched.
Great. I'm mostly just going to go with the past week. I might even leave a few out. But so started with Miller's Crossing, which is a Coen Brothers film. I believe it's their second, maybe their third. It's pretty early on.
Did that finish out the filmography for you?
No. So I mean, I was just about to basically say this, but I am. No, it's fine. I mean, we're talking about it anyway. I'm a pretty big Coen Brothers fan. I think maybe my favorite director, writer team, favorite directors, however you want to slice that. And at this point, I've seen 16 of their 18 films.
Wow.
I love pretty much everyone except for The Lady Killers.
I was just about to say, Lady Killers is like.
Yeah, no, that one's pretty good.
I know you have No Country pretty low on your list too.
But it's still good.
It's still good, yeah.
I haven't seen it in a while. But yeah, it's close to the bottom. I don't think it's the actual bottom, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I consider, like, at least, I mean, I guess masterpiece is kind of hard to define, but like, I really enjoy at least watching like 5 or 6 of their films to the point where like it's really hard for me to even like pick a favorite among those 5 or 6.
Very fair.
So yeah, Miller's Crossing, good. Sort of like a neo-noir, if anyone's interested.
Neo-noir comedy? Did it have that same Coen charm, or?
Yeah, it's less comedic than a lot of their other films. And I'm assuming, I mean, especially among the 3 of you, but I don't know. A lot of people haven't really seen their earlier work, but it is kind of like Blood Simple and Barton Fink, which are sort of comedic, but are more dramas.
I've seen Barton Fink, and I actually think I have Miller's Crossing on Blu-ray. I just haven't watched it yet.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's less similar to Barton Fink in that Barton Fink is kind of weirder and more metaphorical. But it's definitely dark. Well, I guess all Coen Brothers movies are kind of dark.
It's kind of dark to an extent.
It's less of like a dark comedy and more of just a dark movie that has some comedic elements. Anyway. And then
quick question: Is Miller's Crossing the one with the infamous Tommy gun scene?
Yeah. Wow. Okay, I didn't know that was infamous, but it does have a Tommy gun scene.
It's apparently like the longest Tommy gun continuous shooting scene.
Oh yeah, it is
history. Yeah.
I mean, it's not long to the. It's not like Lynchian long, like 6 minutes long or whatever. But it is. Yeah, it does go on for a pretty long time.
That's the only really thing I know about that movie.
Wow, yeah, this is a 3-minute long Tommy gun scene.
Oh, for the entire scene, yeah. I guess it is pretty long. Yeah. But it's not like a continuous shot or anything, so I don't know.
Why, he just keeps shooting.
Okay. And then I watched another underseen movie by a big-name director, Steven Soderbergh's Solaris, which is actually very interesting. Because, okay, so first of all, it's kind of similar to Interstellar, which I'm assuming most people have seen.
Interstellar Martian.
Yeah.
And it's a remake of Tarkovsky's.
Right, yes, it is, which I have not seen. But it's similar to Interstellar and Sunshine, which is another space movie about, like, space trying to kill you, I guess is maybe the best way to put it without spoiling it. And it's very... Like, it's really different from Soderbergh's other films. Like, a lot of Soderbergh's films, I mean, obviously the color grading is a pretty common element, but a lot of them are, like, you could almost describe them as choppy in terms of, like, action and editing, or, like, really quick. And this one is a really long, I mean, it's not long in terms of length. I think it's, like, 100 minutes. But it's a lot slower. It's more of a medium-paced drama. Again, it's like Interstellar in that regard, but obviously not as long.
And that might be because it is a remake of
Tarkovsky.
Oh yeah, it's definitely
about 3 hours.
And knowing who Tarkovsky is, even if I haven't seen a piece of his work, I know he makes very long slow films.
Movies,
well, actually, okay, this was interesting, and I'm not sure if I'm remembering this super correctly, but I believe it. Well, I know it was based on a novel, and I believe the author of the novel said that he liked both movies, but he liked Soderbergh's better, or maybe. He thought it was like more true to the source at least, or maybe he just said that like Soderbergh's was true to the source, and he also said that about Tarkovsky's, and he didn't really have a favorite. But
pretty cool.
So yeah, I mean, I guess it is again like Interstellar, something that you can't really talk about too much without spoiling a lot of it, and the ending does really help sell you on the movie. It is kind of like a mystery, I guess, although that unravels fairly quickly. Okay, I'm gonna have to cut out a few here. But, okay, so the next one that I watched was The Long Goodbye, directed by Robert Altman, starring Elliot Gould. I mean, it's good, like, it's great. I really liked it. It is a noir. It's pretty traditional in that sense, based on a, Raymond Chandler novel.
Nice.
Of the same name. I mean, I'm not going to go on too long about this one because it is a pretty classic noir. Elliot Gould plays a chain-smoking detective who has to solve a murder or whatever. It's good. I liked it. Okay, then I watched Alien 3, which was bad, and honestly I didn't pay that much attention to, so I'm just gonna skip over that. I guess the one interesting note I have about that is weirdly, so that's a David Fincher film, and weirdly, like it really did not feel like a David Fincher film. Like there was almost nothing there in terms of direction.
Is that Alien Dog? Is that Alien Dog?
Yes, it is Alien Dog. But honestly, I feel like a lot of the ideas in the script were somewhat interesting, but just like watching it, there's nothing there. It's not.
I heard his director's cut is a lot better.
Yes, but also weirdly, I think that like David Fincher just like completely swore off the movie after he was done with it. So I think it was assembled by like the studio or like maybe second unit directors or something like that. So it's not even officially
almost just quit doing movies because of that, because he had a terrible experience with it. He didn't even want to do films. Just wanted to go back to commercials.
It's pretty bad. And I don't know how much better the extended cut could be. I mean, like I said, there were a lot of interesting ideas that I didn't feel like were completely fleshed out. So I imagine it's definitely better, but I still don't know that it's great. And I mean, the original 2 Alien movies are like incredible movies. So I mean, there's really no way it can live up to those.
I really want to see Blomkamp's Alien 5.
I really did too.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I don't know. Okay. Babe, Pig in the City, which was, interestingly, directed by the same person who directed Happy Feet.
Just the same guy who did Mad Max.
Mad Max, yeah.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
It is. Okay, so I haven't rewatched Happy Feet. I'm probably going to watch that like tonight or maybe tomorrow at this point.
Pretty awful.
It's so bad. I actually rewatched it a couple weeks ago.
Right, yeah. Pig in the City is interesting. I mean, it's like a children's film directed by the guy who did the Max Mad movies. So it's not like boring. And I don't even know if I'd classify it as bad, but I don't know. I mean, it's worth watching. It's not, like that interesting or anything, but it's so weird. Like it's like obsessed with death in a way. I mean, like the original Babe is kind of obsessed with death, like it's about death. But this one is more just like, okay, a pig goes to a city and it's about like him learning to live in the city or whatever. And then there's just also a lot of like death stuff or like near-death experiences that just kind of felt a little weird. Like there's a scene where Babe has to rescue a dog who is like drowning head first in a river because they're like hanging on a chain from a bridge around their neck. It's like it's weird for a children's movie. Yeah.
That sounds more like a Mad Max scene than a Babe film.
Like it's so strange.
That's crazy.
Okay. And then rewatched Toy Story, which I mean, honestly, I don't have a lot to say about that. It's a good movie. It's a movie that I grew up with.
Definitely aged poorly in terms of visuals, but it was early.
Oh innovation. Yeah, absolutely. That was honestly the main note that I took away from it this time. That the CGI is much worse than both I remembered and then it has. Because like I saw Toy Story 4 relatively recently, but not within like the past month or so, and that's like it does insanely. Like the animation is much better on that. It's crazy. And then Under the Silver Lake, which obviously we're going to talk about. And then today I watched Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern in Wild at Heart, a David Lynch movie, which I ended up liking a lot. But I mean, I end up liking every David Lynch movie that I've seen. So
have you seen Dune?
I have not seen Dune. I'm actually in the middle of reading Dune right now, and then when I finish that, I'll watch the movie. And then
I recently did a project in school for David Lynch because he's one of my favorite directors. So I watched all of his movies, and Dune is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Honestly, it's so
okay.
Bad.
Wow, I didn't know it was that bad. I've definitely heard that it's bad, but yeah,
it's bad.
Yeah,
and he hates it. He absolutely detests it.
I've definitely been a fan of Lynch, and you guys both love this film, but just still Blue Velvet for me. I really, really don't like Blue Velvet, and every time I think about it, I can't get around that.
I don't know what to tell you. I think it's. I mean, if you don't count any like Twin Peaks stuff, I think it's his best movie that I've seen. But I've only seen like half of his movies.
So yeah, I've seen Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, Lost Highway, and then Rabbits, if you want to count Rabbits. And just like the other three, I actually like quite a bit. I think Lost Highway has a couple flaws, especially in the second half. And I mean, Mulholland Drive, I absolutely loved. Yeah. But just Blue Velvet just fell, just like it feels like Lynch was trying to be too narratively focused that he's being too weird. Like he's being unnecessarily weird when a lot of his other films are weird for its art. Like
I do kind of see what you're saying, yeah. Because a lot of the other, like especially Mulholland Drive, like the weirdness comes in part from the weird narrative and the weird framing device. And Wild at Heart is, I would say, more similar to Blue Velvet, right? I mean, it is like, honestly, having seen this many Lynch movies, a lot of them are just like two people kind of drive around for a while and people scream at walls in the meantime.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely what Twin Peaks: The Return ends up being like. That's what Wild at Heart is. That's Mulholland Drive. And even Blue Velvet is similar to that. But I'd say Wild at Heart is a little more plot-driven, definitely less so than Blue Velvet.
I would say like Wild at Heart is probably one of his more accessible films, you know?
Which you told me that with Blue Velvet too, but that was kind of my
but I think
he was trying to, like I said, too narrative.
Yeah, I think the main detractor with Blue Velvet in terms of accessibility is it is like, it's very much like about like graphic violence and sexual violence and stuff like that. So I feel like that turns a lot of people away. So I'd say that Wild at Heart is definitely more accessible in those terms. And it's definitely less weird than like Mulholland Drive and like, but it still has a bunch of like, you know, scenes where there's like weird lighting and people are just kind of screaming and it goes on for like 5 minutes.
I think the weirdest thing for me about when I watched Wild at Heart was the parallels and homages to Wizard of Oz that kind of just came out of nowhere at times.
That's very interesting.
But I like that. I like that a lot.
No, I like it too, but I was just like, at the end of the movie, I was like, why Wizard of Oz? You know?
I mean, I feel like David Lynch is a guy who likes a lot of, I don't know, I guess what's the right way to say this? Like popular movies that are also kind of universal in a sense.
Yeah.
And then he just ends up like telling stories in a much weirder way. Even when the narratives are very straightforward, even if it doesn't always seem that way.
All right.
So yeah, that's enough on that. And then like a couple of hours ago, I rewatched The Third Man.
That's one that I've been interested in for a while.
Oh yeah. Starring Joseph Cotten and Orson Welles.
I've just seen the scene of Orson Welles' reveal like a million times. That's such like a iconic scene.
Okay. So the first time I saw this was probably like a year ago at this point, definitely a little bit longer, but not that long ago. And I ended up liking it, but not loving it. And then this time I rewatched it and it was just great. I loved it. It's pretty much a perfect movie. Maybe not really a perfect movie, but I don't know. I mean, it still holds up incredibly well. The pacing is definitely a little weird, as is with most movies before, like, 1990 or whatever. But yeah, it's great. It's a noir. I don't know. I feel like it's one of those ones that's thrown around as like, if you haven't seen this movie, you should see it. But I mean, I'd recommend it nonetheless.
I mean, we've watched clips in film school and stuff, and I'm like, shoot, I need to watch this.
Yeah.
I'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
Does that finish it off for you?
Yes, that is everything I watched in the past. I don't know,
so I only watched 5 since the last podcast, which is a bit slow, but come back to the movie watching world. So I started the week off I know I mentioned how I watched half of The Godfather. I had to stop because I went to bed, but I completely restarted, finished The Godfather. And I mean, it's a masterpiece. It really just is one of those films where it's just, there's virtually nothing wrong, right? And I mean, the last 20 minutes of The Godfather is literally perfect cinema. I mean, him in the church, just the violent music, and like just watching his men go and work through. I guess I won't go into major spoilers, but I mean, obviously it's a pretty amazing film. And then, geez, did I just follow up with that? I think so. Let me open my letterbox real quick because I'm very forgetful. Oh yeah, that's our one. So then I followed that up. I watched John Wick, which I actually saw Chapter 3 in theaters without having seen Chapter 1 or Chapter 2. It's not that big of a deal, right? I could watch.
Well, I don't know.
John Wick
Especially
isn't about the story.
Sure, but I mean, the second one does tie like directly into the third one. All really tie into one another.
Well, and that's very fair. And I like my friend that I saw the third one with was just like, okay, this is kind of what happened. Here's what they're basing our understanding. But and this is my thing with the first one too. The start of John Wick is incredibly boring. Like, I'm not really interested in John Wick, and like, once it gets going though, it's really some like amazing action, some amazing set pieces. It does have a problem, and this is kind of an often problem I have when I really don't like non-diegenic lyrical music in film, right? Diegenic lyrical music is fine because it's just like, okay, this ties into the plot, this ties into the story. I.e. the scene in Lady Bird when she's at the like the little party. But there were a lot of moments like that, especially like random like flyover moments in John Wick where it's just, this doesn't need to be here. This could have been cut. But John Wick has some of the best action scenes just ever, and a specific standout would be like the bass pumping over the club while John Wick like fights through all the security. That's scene awesome is amazing. It's so good, and the way that Keanu Reeves might not be a good actor, right? I feel like we can all say that to an extent. Yeah, definitely not great, but.
I mean, I don't think he's a great actor, but I think he's pretty good.
Well, in a physical sense, especially in like a film like this, he's amazing.
I think he's really self-aware.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too. That definitely helps.
But I'm glad I finally got the John Wick, and then I actually ended up rewatching the Pirates of the Caribbean film, Curse of Black Pearl, the first one, and I mean, it's fine. It's much better than a lot of other big budget blockbusters, and they did something decently unique. And Johnny Depp is good in it. All the performances are solid, but I definitely don't think it was an Oscar-worthy performance. Like, looking at Johnny Depp's Oscars,
I feel like that's one of those. I feel like that's one of those Oscars where it's just like Johnny Depp had been along for so long, and it was kind of clear that he wasn't going to do anything super like Oscar baity. So they just kind of gave one to him. And he obviously never had a real chance.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I think he's phenomenal. I mean, he's the only reason that movie is. Like, all of them are so good. He makes Pirates of the Caribbean. Without
he
him,
definitely makes it, but I don't think even with him there, I don't think it's a great piece of cinema.
I don't know if I agree with you, Thomas. I just rewatched those movies not too long ago, and I think the first one is honestly the best out of all of them because of how grounded it feels. Compared to all the other ones, it gets a little ridiculous. But even the first one has like the skeleton pirates and all that. But like I'm talking like in terms of like the way it was filmed and the way like it was made, it felt more grounded compared to the other ones. It just felt like a real like pirate movie. Like in my opinion, there isn't really a lot of pirate movies out there. Like the pirate genre honestly has not been explored.
No, I agree.
It was just so like crazy for the times,
new.
You know? Yeah.
I definitely think the skeletons did age pretty poorly.
Yeah, they look bad.
Oh yeah,
yeah, they look pretty
the worst
awful.
part of that movie.
But it's still definitely a fun movie. It's way better than a lot of the average blockbuster. Okay. And then I rewatched definitely cemented as my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson after this rewatch. But I rewatched Punch Drunk Love, and I mean, I love that film so much.
You just gotta bring it up every podcast, huh?
At this point, I do. But it's just. In rewatching it this time, it kind of cemented that, like, the reason I love it so much. It's just an hour and a half where I'm, like, away from the world, where I'm just, like, put into this area that PTA created. And it's just this, like, I leave my struggles and just watch Barry for this hour and a half. And I watch his story unfold. And it's just such a magical experience every time where I can never get bored of it. And I can't get enough of it. I love it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Thomas. That's also my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie. And I mean, pretty much for the reasons that you said. I also think the length definitely helps. It being pretty much the only like short Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Well, besides Hard Eight. Hard Eight's an hour and a half too.
Yeah.
But he actually wanted Hard Eight to be 2.5 hours, but he was releasing it to he was trying to release it to to a film festival, and the film festival required it to be around that time length or they wouldn't show it. So somewhere around there is a 2.5 2.5 hour cut of Part 8.
I mean, that's insane to me because there are like 2 characters in that movie.
Three.
Well, okay, yeah, you know what I mean now. Oh yeah, and the other reason I really like Punch Drunk Love, I think that's probably my favorite Philip Seymour Hoffman performance. Maybe not, because all of them are like legitimately fantastic.
Man,
I don't know. That's just like a really great one.
Thomas, don't even say it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's good too. I mean, all of them are great.
And then just today I watched Under a Silver Lake, which we'll talk about soon.
All right. Sebastian, you want to give us the rundown of what you watched recently?
Well, I haven't had a lot of time on my hands recently, but when I have had a couple hours to kill, I watched The Rise of Skywalker for the second time, and I thought it was god awful and just. Yeah. I have so much. I could literally talk about it for hours, but to keep it simple, I thought it was messy. I thought the editing was awful. I thought the acting was absolutely horrendous. I thought the story was probably the worst out of every single Star Wars movie, and I'm including the prequels there too. I think it was even worse than the prequels. I think a lot of just basically the whole movie, it was just pure, utter, just dog shit. It was just, they did not care. They wanted it to end. They were like, oh, that's it. That's it. Let's continue on. And I really just noticed how little they cared in terms of connecting the story to like even The Last Jedi or like all this. They were just throughout the whole movie. They're like, oh yeah, remember that from The Last Jedi? It doesn't matter. Remember this? Oh yeah, oops. Remember Snoke? Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Just pretty much everything that they already set up previously to that point. They're just like, whatever, screw it. It's all over now. Who cares? And all these crazy mysteries that they had been leading up to, they're just like, they don't matter. Oh well. And I just thought it was really lazy filmmaking. J.J. Abrams continues to stain every franchise he gets his grubby little hands on.
Wow.
And
really coming at him there.
Yeah, and Rise of Skywalker, I give it a half star because I would rather watch Attack of the Clones. I'd rather watch Phantom Menace. I'd rather watch any other Star Wars movie, including The Last Jedi. I think The Last Jedi is actually a better film than Rise of Skywalker in terms of story and in terms of everything it was going for. I will stand by my statement on that. I think it is a better film. I think it is a better Star Wars movie than Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker is a colossal train wreck of a film.
Well, that was a passionate rant.
Let me ask you one thing, Sebastian. When you personally attacked J.J. Abrams, does that mean you hate Mission Impossible 3 and the new Star Trek movies?
I think the new Star Trek movies are okay, but I think personally my favorite one out of all of them, and this is really controversial, but I loved Beyond. I loved Beyond so much because it just felt like a random like Star Trek episode. And
that's what Casey said.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that, and I love what Simon Pegg did with that movie. It was just, I loved it. I love classic Star Trek. I love Next Generation. I love classic Star Trek, and like that movie felt like a Star Trek. Like it felt like I was watching like classic Star Trek like on the big screen. And what J.J. Abrams did with like, you know, refranchising like Star Trek for a modern age, yeah, I don't mind the first 2 movies. They're fine. But like they're nothing like, I don't think they're noteworthy. Like I don't think in 10 years people are going to be like, yo, you remember like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies? Like I just don't think they're going to be like cemented as much as like, you know, honestly, the new Star Wars trilogy. Like I mean, as much as I hate to say that, I mean, the new Star Wars trilogy, people are still going to be talking about it 10 years from now. People are still going to be talking about how bad it is. No one is going to go out of their way and go,
well, it's also because Star Wars is a way bigger franchise than Star Trek.
But, you know, I don't know. And then I do arguably. Really like, arguably. I do really like the Mission Impossible movies, but, like, you know, they're fine. I think the past couple have been the best, so.
Well, yeah. But I think, like, in terms of the first 3,
they're not bad.
One is definitely the best, I'd say.
They're not bad.
Yeah, not bad. I really like the first one. It might be my favorite, like in total. Maybe not though. But I think the reason that it is good is very different from the reason that the later 3 are good. And then Mission Impossible 2 and 3 both are kind of like pretty forgettable.
Mission Impossible 1 wasn't really about the action as much as the newer ones. Right. The newer ones have been mainly focused on, hey, look at this crazy Tom Cruise stunt, which don't get me wrong, I love it. I love what they're doing. But like the first couple Mission Impossible was more about like the story and like, you know, character building. Because I mean, the first one is pure character building and like just all the crazy like shit going on with the government. But anyway, besides the point, now we're going to transition into another movie I saw this week involving spies, and it's called GoldenEye. And oh my God, are the Pierce Brosnan James Bond movies awful. I rewatched all of the Pierce Brosnan James Bond movies with my friend, a little intoxicated, but they were some of the cheesiest, most awful acted, cringe dialogue movies I've seen.
It was definitely a different era of Bond, yeah.
Well, yeah, it was like modern. It was like on the verge of modern era Bond, but they still embraced the campiness of classic Bond too much. It's such a weird mix. It was like they had all these modern elements in it, but they relied too much on being campy James Bond, and it just does not work. I highly recommend watching GoldenEye because it has not held up at all. It is awful. I will talk about this briefly. There is a sex scene in the movie, and it is a sex fight scene in a shower room. And Pierce Brosnan is wrestling this woman who's trying to have sex with him, and he like starts punching her and throwing her against walls, and then he throws a pot at this guy coming into the room. It is quite baffling. It is quite baffling. And I watched the other Pierce Brosnan movies. I watched Die Another Day and all those whatever, to fucking Tomorrow Never Dies, whatever they're called. They were all just as bad, and they're all just as I don't even want to really talk about them anymore. But let's just leave it on this. I'm very happy that the Daniel Craig era has been fantastic, except Quantum of Solace. But
arguably Spectre too, but
I
enjoy it to an extent. I think it has its issues.
Well, yeah, it has issues, but again, I really, really like the modern era Bond movies compared to every other Bond movie. And I would go to an extent to say that in terms of classic Bond movies too, because there's a lot of classic Bond movies I love and cherish. But like when the Daniel Craig era came along, like I think they're amazing. I rewatched Casino Royale recently, and I was blown away by it because I hadn't watched it in so long, and it was amazing. It was fantastic.
I haven't seen it in a while, but I have it on DVD,
Dude,
and I'm planning on rewatching it soon.
It is, yeah. It was. I highly recommend rewatching it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic film.
I loved it. It was just so ahead of its time. So, in terms of that, that's really all. I've been watching a little bit of TV, dabbling my fingers, and I started watching Twin Peaks. So, we watched the first couple episodes. I watched the pilot.
The pilot's amazing, isn't it?
It was fantastic. I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Really gripped me. So I'm looking forward to watching more Twin Peaks. Getting a little bit, dipping my toes into Lynch a little bit more. So that's basically what
we have 10 minutes left on this one too, so
yeah. So I mean, I can go over what I watched, and then we can reset and hop into Under the Silver Lake.
Yep.
So I had a really slow week. I mean, this is probably the slowest week I've had throughout the podcast. I only watched 3 movies.
Wow, that's insane for you.
I know. Well, I mean, I had gone home for a week,
chilling
with the family, and then I came back and I just started summer class. So, but I decided to rewatch Mulholland Drive, which is my favorite David Lynch film, and man, I think this was my 4th time seeing it. And I think this time around, it really, I mean, I loved it all the other times, but this one really just hit me, unlike any of the other viewings before. And there's still, because I was like so into it this time. I mean, I'm into it all each, but I was like really honed in. And I was trying to like explain it to myself, throughout the movie. Yeah. And I'm still stuck on a few little things. There are still a few things that I can't quite connect all together. But I mean, other than that, I think it's a masterpiece. That's my personal favorite Lynch film, and I could watch that like on repeat if I wanted.
There's a quote from Roger Ebert where it goes like, your favorite to rewatch. And I mean, yeah, if that's that way for you, then it's a pretty amazing piece of cinema.
Speaking of Roger Ebert, I think it's kind of funny. He loved Mulholland Drive, but he didn't like Blue Velvet like you.
Wait, oh, you cut out there for a second?
Sorry. Roger Ebert really liked Mulholland Drive, but he didn't like Blue Velvet.
So I'm validated. I'm right. You guys are wrong. Bye.
I think I was also reading this. It might have been like somebody else, but I think he also really disliked Wild at Heart. So yeah.
Yeah, I know he liked The Elephant Man.
What do you think? I'm very interested.
I think, didn't he like Eraserhead?
I asked
Roger
him.
Ebert, Eraserhead. So you can continue, Colin.
After Mulholland Drive, I rewatched The Martian. I hadn't seen that since like 2016 or something. It's a good movie. I like it. You know, Ridley Scott, space. They worked well together, and it's just a fun movie. You know, I like how grounded it is and true to like the what if scenario. What if this actually happened, and the politics and stress and stakes that go along with it. And I think it balances humor and drama pretty well.
So looking at Ebert's website, and this is actually Ebert. I know Ebert has people working on the website because rest in peace and all that. So yeah, he gave a 4 out of 4 to Mulholland Drive, which is his highest score. He gave a 1 out of 4 to Blue Velvet. And he actually gave a 2 out of 4 to Elephant Man. But I know you didn't. He actually gave a 2.5 to Wild at Heart. And a 2 to Lost Highway.
Okay.
But he gave a perfect score to Inland Empire.
Really?
Yeah, 4 out of 4. Same thing for The Straight Story. Perfect score for both of them.
Straight Story was good, but that's like the most un-Lynch of all Lynch movies.
Yeah, I mean, it's on Disney Plus. It has to be.
Yeah, it's interesting though that was it actually him that gave 4 to 4 for?
Yes, yeah, I looked.
Okay. Well, I mean for Inland Empire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's casting crew. Oh wait.
Other than Dune, that's the only David Lynch film I don't like. Inland Empire.
Wow.
It's 3 hours of
Never mind.
Lynchian madness.
I thought it was Ebert, but no, it was a different guy who did it.
Okay.
Well, what about Eraserhead?
Well, for Elephant Man, yeah, Roger Ebert gave it a half, and I don't see an Eraserhead review on his website.
I think he had just started around that time. Like,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming Eraserhead has developed more of a cult following. Like I
for
don't
sure.
know if it was huge at the time. Right.
All right, Colin, continue.
And so I mean that's it. After I rewatched The Martian, Under the Silver Lake,
which we will get to in a minute.
Yeah. So we move on to the feature discussion, Under the Silver Lake,
which 3 of us here like quite a bit, and 1 doesn't. So I mean, starting off, why I like it a lot is that it's strange and it's very Lynchian. But it also fixes a problem that I often kind of have with his films, that's very coherent and it's very easily to understand. Because like my main 2 films I can relate it to would be Mulholland Drive and Inherent Vice, you know, the PTA film. And I like it much better than I like both of those, to be honest. No, well, not much better than Mulholland Drive. It's about the same amount, maybe a little bit more from Under Silver Lake. But it presents these strange things that you kind of like begin to understand and you get to piece together. And I enjoyed it quite a lot. It was a great mystery to me.
I think it's interesting you use the word cohesive because, I mean, even after seeing, I mean, it's definitely not a messily like put together movie.
Yeah.
I still have absolutely no idea what some things mean having seen this for the second time. But I mean, that's part of the reason why I like it. Like I like Mulholland Drive,
yeah,
or Inherent Vice. You know,
it's hard to understand, but it's weird for its art. You know, where it's like that just adds a layer to the film.
Right. So actually, I think the main difference between this and a lot of Lynch films is kind of like what both of you were saying. I think each individual storyline eventually unravels and you understand what's happening in that storyline. Like you eventually find out what happened to Sarah. You eventually find out, the owl killer is real. You eventually find out that Patrick Fischler dies, but you don't necessarily understand what is the cohesive, connective tissue between each of them, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's still a greater mystery in that sense.
But it is explained.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it is explained in the sense where it is just one big conspiracy theory, right?
Well, but is the owl killer a part of that? Was Patrick Fischler really onto that, or was he just a conspiracy theorist who didn't know anything?
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that's open for interpretation, but definitely less so than a lot of Lynch films.
I would agree with that. But I still think, I mean, like, I think one of the similarities is how it leaves. I mean, obviously, there's a lot left up to interpretation, but I think what makes this movie kind of similar to Inherent Vice is there will be certain plot threads that are like intentionally just kind of dropped off or forgotten in kind of a nihilistic manner. Because like by the end of this movie, I know Sebastian, we were talking earlier, you didn't like the ending, but I think the ending works really well because its whole point is to be nihilistic and untraditional, that it's kind of pointless. It's kind of like, well, there's this big lead up and then there's, you know, once you figure out what happened, there's nothing you can really do about it. So he just does nothing. He just goes, you know, back to, you know, but it wraps things up. It makes it work well in how it does end. It doesn't leave you in an unsatisfied or like wrongly felt ambiguity or anything like that.
Yeah, and I mean, what was I going to mention? I mean, relating it to Lynch again, the main two beers that they drink in the film are actually Pabst Blue Ribbon and Heineken.
Yeah, so that must be a nod. I didn't even notice.
Oh, yeah, no, really there's no way. When he's just casually drinking a beer, he's mainly usually drinking Heineken. When they're like doing like discovery things, he's drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon. Because when I noticed it, it was during the drone scene when they go and like spy on it. And I was like, oh wait, no way that can't be like a coincidence.
Speaking of which, isn't Topher Grace awesome in this?
Yeah,
he's pretty solid.
It's really good, and he's like the one like normal person, which I think is great casting on that part too.
Yeah. He's always just got this like natural charm to him, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. All right, Sebastian. So we've talked about a lot of the reasons we like it quite a bit, and let's go on to you.
I thought it was awful. I thought it was things I liked. I thought it was very well filmed. I thought it was very well shot. I thought it was, for the most part, very well acted, even though there was like really awkward dialogue between some of the in some of the scenes. I was like, that was some pretty awful acting on everyone's part. I thought, again, cinematography was great. The score was beautiful. I thought the score was fantastic. Other than that, I thought everything else was very redundant and quite boring. I thought the film relied being too artsy and too quote-unquote thought-provoking, but there was really no substance. There was nothing really there. Once you get to the end of the movie, it's just like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, again, I guess that if you want to argue and say that's the point of the film, go, all right, sure, whatever. But I just thought it was a very pointless watch because I left the viewing of the movie with no new, like, nothing that blew my mind, nothing that left me thinking. It was just like, okay, that was it. Whatever. And again, if I really wanted to talk about noir movies, Blade Runner. I still think Blade Runner is probably my favorite quote-unquote noir movie because Blade Runner, I think, has a lot of thought-provoking concepts and a lot to dissect there, including 2049 as well, when it comes to, like, you know, there's just a lot of concepts in Blade Runner I think that, you know, I love talking about. And with this movie, it left me very uninterested and very I don't mind that I watched it, but I didn't get anything from the movie. I thought it was very boring.
I think everything you said is very valid. I think this is definitely one of those films that people are going to either love it or they're going to hate it. Like films like PTA film.
Like this director's other film, I didn't realize he did this, but he also did It Follows.
Yeah,
which I love
It Follows. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like
another
again,
like polarizing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like again, it's definitely not a bad movie. I have nothing about like bad to say about the presentation of the movie. I just felt a lot of the plot lines were like useless. And then once everything came together, I went, really? That's really all you had to say? Like, again, the owl thing, she was just in his apartment and then she's gone. I was like, what is that about? Like, she just gone and that's it? Enough for that? Okay. And then like what was that all about? And then like, okay, whatever. And then like,
I completely understand.
There's just so many plot lines that just get dropped off and forgotten about. And then I just thought the conclusion of the movie was just really dumb. Like, it was like I watched this whole movie expecting like some huge groundbreaking relation, like just something crazy to happen and nothing happened. And it was just like, oh, life goes on.
I disagree. That was what I kind of wanted from it, because that film kind of presents that like you can try your hardest, but you don't have like the control that you're seeking, right? Because in the end, he doesn't get what he's looking for. He's left like stripped and barren, that all this thing that he's worked so hard towards, and then that's all it is.
It was definitely purposeful how he leveled expectations in that build up, and then the finale, how it closes up.
Yeah. But see, if you're gonna say that, like again, I'll make another comparison to Blade Runner 2049. 2049, the whole movie, you think that it's going this one way, like, oh yeah, he's for sure gonna be like the son of Deckard, and there's gonna be this groundbreaking that's like the groundbreaking revelation of the movie, and then it turns out no, he was just a nobody that just happened to get caught up in all this, and then at the end of the movie, he understood that his life was pretty much meaningless and he had no purpose, and that was kind of, he accepted his, ultimate demise. And then with this movie, it was just like, oh, well, life goes on. Oops, I uncovered this crazy conspiracy mystery. Oh, well.
But then again, there doesn't have to be some crazy relation,
Well, I know, but like,
I don't think it's an oh, well. It's still in the back of my mind. I mean, that's why they show the stay quiet hobo symbol. It spray painted into his house. I mean, that's why, and like, there's so many like relations in the film where I disagree. I can see the owl woman, but I feel like that's just like the hit person, where it's just like, oh, this person's starting trouble, let's go. But I understand like how'd she just disappear? Like, looking back on it, these weren't problems that bothered me as I was watching it, but I can see the issues. But there were a lot of points that tied together where I was just like, okay, so this and this and this. It was very like coherent, as I was saying. It was one of those noirs that had a lot of elements, but they all made sense to an extent in the grand scheme of things, especially when presented with the ending.
Which I'm interested, quick side here, because I remember last episode when I suggested this movie, I said it was because I just watched Inherent Vice for the first time. It reminded me, I saw this before Inherent Vice, even though that Inherent Vice came out before. But it reminded me of that a lot, just because of its noir genre tendencies, and it's kind of Odyssey-like.
They're very similar films.
Intertwined, yeah. And then I just rewatched Mulholland Drive. So, but you liked Inherent Vice.
Yeah, but I like Inherent Vice a lot less than I like this.
And why is that? Because I think they're very similar.
Well, because Inherent Vice presents a lot of things that just walk up and lose themselves, right? Where it's just, I don't care in the long run. There's a lot of like stuff in Inherent Vice that feels unnecessary, and I understand why there's a lot of love for Inherent Vice where there is, but in the end, I just stopped caring.
That's almost the exact same way I feel about this movie.
Well, it's how you feel about that, but I feel like this film does it a lot better.
And I think a huge difference between Inherent Vice and Under the Silver Lake is Inherent Vice is much more comedic, and this has much more horror elements. So I think horror, I mean, obviously it really depends on the person, but I think horror is always something that's interesting to watch, blended into pretty much any other type of movie. And I think that comedy can, I mean, especially for like a 2.5-hour movie, and if that's not really like the main point or the main crux of the movie, it can end up kind of falling flat.
Well, see, I'm a huge horror fan, and I just didn't like any of the horror elements that they threw into the movie. And I also, I think honestly, like my main issue with Under the Silver Lake was honestly the main character. And I get if the whole point was the main character was very unlikable, but I just didn't care about anything like that going on or anything he was doing. He was just very uninteresting. And then the whole, like, just the whole way the plot unraveled, like, hey, I slept with this, well, didn't sleep with her, but I had this really this weed-induced conversation with this girl. Now she disappears. Now I have to find out where she's going. I just felt like his whole motivation and everything that built up to that point, he's just kind of a pervert and creep. I just felt that was just very uninteresting to watch.
It can tie into the sense of like the subliminal like sexual messages that the film brings up, right?
Right.
And Tyson, I want to mention this here. Did you at least like the Music Man scene, like the
songwriter?
The songwriter, the songwriter, because that scene was amazing. Yeah, I adored that.
I didn't get the point of that scene.
Right. It was just the big realization. He's being validated for what he thought. right?
Well,
It's a driving factor to keep him going too.
So, but did that happen? So you're just a murdering psychopath because you just fucking killed that guy, and then so that's another thing. Like, what?
I think Colin and I are probably trying to bring up like the same point, but I think this movie does very much show that its protagonist, and furthermore, like noir protagonists in general, are unlikable people, and not just unlikable people, but I feel like a lot of people look at noirs and they're like, oh yeah, that guy's unlikable, but he's like a good guy in the end. And I think this movie really goes to show that no, Andrew Garfield is not a good person. He's not someone that should be idolized. He's like a pervert, he's a murderer, you know, and even if you start out thinking like, oh, well, his intentions are good, by the end of the movie, that's completely destroyed. And I can see that absolutely not working for someone. I don't think it's necessarily, like, I can't really change your mind, first of all, but I also think it's not a good way to argue, like, oh, well, you know, that was the point of the movie, you weren't supposed to like it. I don't think that's necessarily a great argument, but I think that is why I ended up liking it a lot.
I just wanted to say two things. Bringing it back to what Noah said about Inherent Vice and this movie, how both of them use comedy in a certain way. And this one's obviously more horror, while the other one's kind of more comedy drama. I think this movie is hilarious. Like, I laughed a lot during this one, a lot. And maybe it's because this is the second time I've watched it. But the first time, Inherent Vice, I mean, they both use like odd comedy for certain effects, which both very effectively, both balance, you know, lots of tones very well. But I feel the same about both movies. Inherent Vice is obviously more grounded and like realistic in a sense. It still has that dream-like approach to certain things, but it's definitely not as absurd and left field as this movie. But I mean, I think they're both around the same. I feel the same about them. There was one other thing I want to say, but I think I forgot. Oh, it was about the main character, Andrew Garfield. I actually really, I mean, I know you're like, I really like his character. And
I honestly agree.
I even kind of like him. You know, I mean, it's in like Noah, you were saying, you start off understanding his intentions, and then by the end you realize, well, yeah, he's not. As you see him progress, and by then you realize he's not the best person. But I mean, I think it's a great performance showcasing just how kind of loose and like naive his mindset is anyway. And you know, it's really interesting to me. I really like the character.
Yeah, I mean, I agree personally.
I didn't.
So let me bring up, like, if you could get like just the gist, the main like what this film was about, and just like one broad thing, what would you guys say?
I mean, like in one word, or like a quick sentence?
Just a quick, like, I'll give you an example. Like, I see this movie as Andrew Garfield's character coping with a breakup. And this whole like odyssey of what happens is him trying to come to terms with a girl he really liked breaking up with him, and him not being able to cope with it.
So I have... Huh?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. I have a sort of similar take, but I guess it's a little different. And I feel like this is honestly maybe a little too obvious, but it's about, so Andrew Garfield moves to Hollywood. He's like, and you know, this isn't explicit, but he's like, oh, I'm going to get a great job. I mean, and this is even like text at one point. Andrew Garfield's like, you know, I thought I was going to be someone when I was younger. And then he realizes not only that he's not going to be someone, but that like everything around Hollywood, LA, you know, California in general is so structured around like misogynistic practices. I mean, obviously that's like specific to this movie, but just like, you know, very bad practices in general. And it's Andrew Garfield falling out of love with Hollywood, I guess, and becoming much more nihilistic person.
Yeah, one of my favorite lines in the film is actually, it's something that the conspiracy dude says. It's, there's nothing more iconic than burgers and tits. It's a line like that. I absolutely adored that line, because it's just like, it like kind of drives in that subliminal messaging idea, right?
Yeah.
And yeah. And that's like what, like the advertising is about, and also what the songwriter, like all of it is like, no, you don't have any original ideas. Creativity doesn't flourish here. What flourishes here.
There's no free will.
I mean, it's also
exactly.
like, God, there's so many points like that. Because when you first go to a songwriter's like little mansion area, there's a series of notes, and that note spells out ACBEE, and if you like say it like enough times, it kind of sounds like a pussy, a bussy, a bussy, a pussy. And like just like even thinking about it at that point, like just like this, like there were so many points in this film where I just threw my hands up and it's like, oh my God, like just mouth wide open.
I'll blow your mind real quick. I actually read this on I was reading a little bit of the Under the Silver Lake subreddit.
Oh, there's a whole subreddit for it?
Yeah.
Nice.
So in the beginning of the film, you know how it flashes little pictures of animals?
Yeah.
So this person was like, because they were talking about the dog killer. Who is the dog killer? And there's this theory that Andrew Garfield is the dog killer.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason he's the dog killer is because his past girlfriend who dumped him had a dog, and he saw that dog as like unconditional love, and then she betrayed him. So whenever he sees dogs, he just thinks of her, and that's why like all the girls throughout the movie bark at him, Yeah. But so this person was like, he's not the dog killer, and this is why. So those little flashes of animals at the beginning, it was a unicorn, a tiger, a snake, and a lion. And if you spell out the first letters of those animal names, it's UTSL, Under the Silver Lake. And so when the camera pans in that coffee shop or whatever, there's a guy with a shirt that has a bunch of little animal, like similar animal animations. And if you spell out those animals in the same way as at the beginning, it says, beware the dog killer. And he's like, that guy's the dog killer.
That's so, I don't think that guy's the dog killer, right?
I like that idea. It's a fun little Easter egg.
But there's so many points in that film like that where it's just like, once you realize, it's just crazy. It's interesting. And I guess in that sense, if I had to describe it in like just one quick bit, it's probably just like, LA conspiracy theory, right? I mean, that's just what it is, because that was the driving force of the film, right? And I understand that's why he started, was because of his obsession in finding this girl, but I think that he's just driven forward as these like crazier things come of it.
I read another odd theory, which I think was more of a joke, but it was saying that Andrew Garfield is actually a dog or a werewolf, and it was like, he's a werewolf because he has the Wolfman poster in his room. When asked if he was a cat person or a dog person, he replies that he was bitten by a dog at a young age, which means he could be a werewolf. And they just go on and on throughout the movie. I was like, it's kind of funny.
A film like this, you can definitely see why they have a subreddit, because it's like a film like this has so much interesting ideas to be like pulled from. Right? I'm sure there's a Mulholland Drive subreddit. I'm sure there's I'm sure there's even maybe like an Eternal Sunshine subreddit. But
I have my words for this movie.
Yeah.
A movie trying too hard to be thought-provoking.
Yeah, that's fair. It definitely pulled those thoughts from me, but I understand where you're coming from.
See, I've already been exposed to subliminal messaging, and nothing really blows my mind about that anymore. Like, it's definitely a thing. And if that's really like what you guys like really thought was interesting about it, power to you. But, me personally, like, I mean, not trying to be edgy or anything, but like, I've already like kind of been exposed to a lot of conspiracy theories, and it's kind of something I love doing in my personal time anyway. So nothing from this movie really, I mean, maybe that's why I didn't like it. Maybe if I just had a complete blank brain to like subliminal messaging and like kind of like stuff like that, maybe I would have liked it. But I mean, I just thought it was in that movie.
See, I just thought it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, like I didn't
find it funny though. I didn't find it funny.
You didn't find it funny?
No, I didn't laugh at all. I seriously was like bored the entire time I watched it.
Yeah, and see, I think for a 2.5-hour movie, it flew by. There's not like a moment that was not interesting or entertaining or engaging for me,
Here's that. Well, opinions are opinions. And so I guess to wrap up this cast, we're going to talk about, because this is obviously an A24 film, it has the A24 feel. We're going to talk about our A24 ranked. So I guess we can just go through some of our highs and our lows in each of our ranks.
Well, before we do that, I just wanted to talk about one more thing with Under the Silver Lake, because I read this really expansive review on the subreddit that I think pieced together a lot of the things pretty well. There are still some things that this person admitted they don't even still understand. But I think just like Mulholland Drive or Inherent Vice, they all have this dream state or like dreamy quality to them, you know. Mulholland Drive is more, I think, explicit in telling you what is and what isn't a dream, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting if you look at this film from that perspective, that some things could be within Andrew Garfield's mindset or within his psyche, his like a dream state, if you will. Because this person was talking about how a lot of the odd plot points throughout the film kind of represent emotions or certain thoughts within his mind. Like the whole the owl's kiss, that owl lady that kills people. They were saying that could like represent thoughts of suicide in him, because they even talk about how the Patrick Fischler's character, who is also in Mulholland Drive, funny enough, I found that kind of cool.
Oh wow!
How when he's killed by the owl's kiss, the police officers say it was a suicide. Andrew Garfield knows he didn't commit suicide; it was the owl's kiss. So that could be like a little reference to how it is perceived as like suicidal thoughts.
Well, yeah. Also, I'll add to that, Colin. Do you remember? Do you remember the one scene? It was kind of towards the end of the movie. I thought he was going to commit suicide. It was when he was sitting down on the couch and he was watching like that old movie, and it was like subliminally, like kind of like telling him to like, I guess, kind of kill himself, or I guess in a way, because that's how I perceived it. Because I thought he was, because he had the gun there, and I thought he was going to I thought he was going to shoot himself. And then he didn't. I was just like, oh, okay. So.
Well, you can also see if it's focusing on subliminal messaging, then at the point of the film, he's pushing against it because he understands it at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also kind of goes back to my broad statement about how this was getting over a relationship, because at the beginning, he's this sex-obsessed loner who is depressed because he got out of this relationship. He only sees women as an object, essentially. And he goes on this quest to pursue the one he really wants, which is really the only woman throughout the movie we don't see him having a sexual relationship with, right? And by the time he realizes that there's no way he's going to get to her, and that's when he realizes he has to let go. And then he sleeps with the old woman.
Yeah.
So It's interesting. It's kind of contradictory in a sense, kind of nihilistic, but again, I feel like that's the point, you know.
So who was the girl at the beginning was just like nobody, I guess. Remember the one that he bangs?
I think she was just like
his
an
fuck
idea.
buddy.
Yeah, like that. Friends with benefit.
Okay, because I thought that was going somewhere too, and then you see her a couple times, and then she's just kind of gone. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, like I see it as her having come and like, yes, it was the sense like she leaves him because of his insanity as he keeps going, moving forward. I think she serves her purpose. I definitely think she's in and out very fast. And I can't agree with you there, but
definitely.
You're talking about the blonde
girl that was like an actress
that shows up in a different outfit.
Yeah. Because I mean, I think there's one telling scene too where they're having sex and the news comes on.
Yeah,
he starts going harder when he sees the billionaire's daughter. You know, so like the blonde girl is nothing to him other than just an object. Sex with a regular. Yeah. And he just has that drive to pursue more. It's interesting.
Yeah. I suppose.
And I definitely think it's an interesting film, at the very least.
It's something.
I agree.
All right. So then if we move on to an A24 rank, where would everyone like slot this in? So I think this would probably, looking at my list, so it'd be my 7th favorite A24 film in between Moonlight and Ghost Story, for me personally.
Okay. I had this ranked at number 9.
Number 9. What's it in between for you?
So like I can give you the top 10, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, so
I think we should all do top 10.
Yeah.
Overall, I've seen 29 A24 films.
Wow, man, more than me. I'm at 23.
Oh yeah, the worst one, without a doubt, being Slice, the one with
Chance the Rapper.
Yeah, that was so bad. I don't even know why I watched that.
Yeah.
That's the only, I think, truly bad one I've seen. The one at 20 High Life, because I just didn't really like that movie, but it wasn't horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think I've seen one that I consider bad. Like my least favorite is Swiss Army Man, and I mean
that was below for me too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we go through your top 10.
Okay, so at 10 I have The Lobster, because The Lobster is great.
I love The Lobster.
I missed that. I haven't seen it
The
yet.
Lobster's hilarious. Yeah, I found that movie hysterical.
I want to watch it. My mom was actually watching it. And I had something going on at the time, and every time I walked through and just like watch the scene, it was hilarious.
Yeah, Yorgos Lanthimos, definitely a good director. I prefer The Lobster and Killing of a Sacred Deer over The Favorite.
Me too.
Yeah, but Under the Silver Lake's at number 9, and of course some of these, I'm just going from memory because I haven't seen some of them in a long time. The Florida Project I have at number 8. Then Killing of a Sacred Deer at number 7. Hereditary is at number 6. Climax is at number 5. Good Times at number 4. And how about I wait for the top 3? We'll all do
that. Okay. I like that. So if I go through my top 10, so I mentioned where it's slotted, but so it's actually boots out Ex Machina out of the 23, and I love Ex Machina, but just it narrowly doesn't make the cut. So my top 10, number 10 is Florida Project. Number 9 would be Mid-90s. Coincidental.
I thought that one was okay.
Yeah, well, Mid-90s resonated with me a lot because it was like that was the culture I was into when I was growing up. So watching that film, it really just captured what I wanted as a kid to an extent. And like just watching Steven Subchak's character, I forget his name in the film, just watching him do that, it was an experience, and I really enjoyed it. And then I have A Ghost Story at number 8, which I think is a fantastic film, muddled in some points, but I think some of like the messaging and like the metaphors that it presents, it's just amazing. And then number 7 would be Under Silver Lake. Number 6 would be Moonlight. Number 5 would be Hereditary. Then we go Uncut Gems, and then we'll save the last 3.
Okay. I have only seen 12 A24 movies, so only 2 of them don't make the top 10.
What are those 2? Why not?
Sure. Okay. The 2 worst, and again, they're like 8 out of 10 movies. They're pretty good. They're just not, great, I guess. So Room and The Souvenir, which I don't think any of you have seen. Right, yeah. And I think that's honestly a theme for a lot of this list. I only heard like 1 or 2 others mentioned. So the next one is, this is 10, Enemy by Denis Villeneuve.
Oh, no, I like Enemy quite a bit.
Yeah, it's great. And I think definitely the more it's 10. So I think the more I watch, the more it'll be pushed down. So I think that's probably why
it's really low on my list. I think it's around 18.
Really?
But it's still an 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. It's not.
No, I think I actually lowered it to a 7 out of 10.
Okay. Either way, it's probably. I haven't seen any of Villeneuve's French movies or Prisoners, but I still think it's his least interesting movie by far. And then we have The Lobster at number 9, which honestly, my main problem with it is that it's just like really, really depressing. It's really funny, but it's really depressing.
So funny.
It's still good though. And then Spring Breakers, Harmony Korine's first A24 film, I think. First film in a while, maybe not. Which is pretty good. It's very atmospheric. It feels sort of like a nightmare. It's set in Florida. None of you have seen it, right?
I've seen clips.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen a single one of his films yet. I'm really interested in Gummo, which he did, right?
Yeah, right. This is the only one that I've seen of his. That was interesting.
I've only seen The Beach Bum, and I wasn't too big a fan.
I wasn't a huge fan, but I think it's still pretty good, honestly. I think Spring Breakers is better. And then The Lighthouse, which honestly I was surprised. Okay, maybe you guys have it in your top 3, maybe. But yeah.
It's actually in my top 3. It's up there for me.
Yeah. It's really good. I just like a lot of other movies better. And then Swiss Army Man, which is a great movie. I really like that movie.
It's very fun, but it's my least favorite of what I've seen. Right?
Yeah,
I think
I'm not a big fan.
I love the montage scenes in it, but a lot of the parts it just feels kind of pointless.
Yeah, which I mean, feels like kind of the point of the movie. I don't.
Yeah,
know
it's very funny
it's
at
like,
parts.
Yeah.
It got a couple good laughs out of me for sure.
I don't know. Maybe it's not like. I mean, obviously it's not the best. I don't have it as my best or anything, but I feel like it. I mean, honestly, a lot of A24 are like kind of balancing comedy and depression, and I feel like Swiss Army Man isn't as funny or as depressing as a lot of other movies, but it balances them pretty well, and it's pretty good at both. And then Under the Silver Lake, which honestly might just be recency bias, at number 5. I mean, I think it's pretty good. We just talked about that. And then The Farewell, Lulu Wang's recent movie.
That's a great one.
At number 4, which I think is a masterpiece. And the top four, I think, are all masterpieces in their own right. And they're all pretty different.
All right, so
yeah.
That's your leaving at the top 3. Sebastian?
I'm just going to name off movies. I don't really have a particular order except like the top 3. So I'm just going to name off movies. Tusk. I love Tusk. I just love Kevin Smith in general. So, I mean, Tusk, of course, is going to be up there for me. I also really like The Witch. I don't particularly put it in my top 3. I think it's good. I just don't think it's better than The Lighthouse, in my opinion. I also really enjoy, let's see what else I got on here. A Ghost Story I like a lot. Disaster Artist is an A24 movie. I love it to death. I, again, love The Room, love The Disaster Artist. I just love that. Mid-90s is up there. Loved mid-90s. Love skateboarding. Thought it was fantastic. I'll also, let's see what else we got here. No, that's top 3. I loved Waves. I thought Waves was fantastic. I thought it made me cry. It's fantastic. Loved it. What else we got here? We got there's so many A24 movies.
Yeah.
American Honey. I did watch American Honey.
You did watch it recently?
Loved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yep. Farewell's up there. I don't know how many I've mentioned. Probably 6 maybe? 6.
Yeah, mention one more that you like a lot.
That I like a lot. That is not my top A24. Lobster.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Good pick.
All right. Let's top 3. Was it who
you can go because you started with the top 10.
All right. So and again, some of these I haven't seen in such a long time, just going off of memory and the scores I usually give them too. But top 3 for me: Lady Bird. Love Lady Bird. It's a really good movie. Number 2 was The Disaster Artist. I really love that movie.
Huh.
Me too.
So that's actually bottom 3 for me. It's still
Really?
a 7 out of 10, but
do you love The Room though?
I mean, I don't have a huge connection with it, but
well, then that's probably why.
Yeah.
I just think that I mean, obviously it's a well-made movie, but it's also just one of the most fascinating based on true story films, and I think that's what makes it so.
And we know Colin. Colin does love his true stories.
I do love my biopics. Yeah.
Tommy is just one of the most interesting people alive right now.
We should have had a God. Which beer did the most interesting man in the world was Budweiser, right?
Dos Equis.
God damn it. They should have had a Tommy Wiseau commercial of it.
That'd be awesome.
Can you do his voice, Sebastian? Can you do Tommy Wiseau saying, "I'm the most interesting man in the world"? No.
Nah.
Yeah. Sorry to put you on.
I gotta refrain from that for right now.
Yeah. Okay. And
All
your
right,
number 1, Colin?
So number 1, I'm actually surprised because both of you guys already mentioned that it was kind of low for you. But number 1 is Enemy. I think
Really?
Enemy is a near masterpiece. I think that movie's amazing.
I mean, I agree. I really like that movie. I don't know. I like a lot of other H24 movies better.
I definitely don't think it's Denis Villeneuve's best film because I got Blade Runner, Prisoners, Arrival. I think those are all
there
as well.
I would agree.
Did you ever mention The Witch in your top 10?
The Witch for me was number 16.
Wow. I remember you liking. So where's Lighthouse Fall?
17.
Nice. All right. Enemy's a great film. I think the first time I watched it really pushed it. Like, it was pushed forward, and I loved it. But as it just lost itself in my mind a lot. It was kind of forgettable in a sense.
I like it a lot.
I think I've seen it like maybe 3 times.
Wow.
So I mean,
Sure,
it definitely like gets better, and I mean it's got Jake Gyllenhaal playing 2 people. That's just come on.
All right. So yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal's like a perfect actor.
Yeah, he's great in that.
Yeah, he really is. All right, and so moving on to my top 3, my number third would be The Lighthouse. I think The Lighthouse is fantastic. I just like, God, everything about it, the performances, like the messaging. I mean, just how insane it is.
That's what I need to see again, because the first time I thought it was good. I just think it was great.
It's on Prime now too, but I have it on Blu-ray. And then number 2 for me would be Lady Bird. Just such a like heartfelt film. It was something that I could relate to too. I just love it so much. And then number 1, and this was mentioned by Sebastian, American Honey, which I think is a masterpiece.
I haven't seen it.
It's amazing. I mean,
Shia LaBeouf is just fantastic in that movie.
Yeah, God, what's that? Alma Harrell? No, Alma Harrell is Sasha Lane. Alma Harrell is the person who directed Honey Boy.
Yeah.
But Sasha Lane in that film is just fantastic, and just like the themes it deals with, and like just the life that you get to see these characters watch. It's so whole, and it presents all of this in like a fantastic filmmaking. It looks beautiful. The performances are stunning. I think the writing's great. Just everything that happens throughout. I think it's a perfect film. It's pretty great.
Okay. So my number 3, which honestly I'm a little surprised that nobody has mentioned, is Uncut Gems. Which
Uncut Gems is in my top 5.
That was 11 for me, just out of the top.
Yeah,
that makes sense. My second favorite movie of last year, after Parasite, of course. I mean, I don't know. I really like it. I've only seen it once still, but I mean, I'll probably watch it again.
Netflix soon.
I actually prefer Good Time, personally.
I have not seen that. I mostly just went to see Uncut Gems in the theater because of Adam Sandler, and now I'm more interested in seeing the Safdie stuff. But,
Good Time's actually my 4th lowest, too.
Huh.
Which is they're still high, but I have some.
Yeah.
See, that was number 4 for me. Good Time.
Yeah. Which that's funny because Uncut Gems is number 4 for me. Yeah.
Okay. So number 2 is Lady Bird, which I mean I guess we haven't really talked about, but I think everybody has it in their top 3, right?
Yeah.
Except
for Sebastian.
Yes.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't know.
Sebastian doesn't like it.
Definitely. I hate Lady Bird.
Okay, well, I don't know. I mean, I really like it. I think it's a great movie. I mean, I don't know. It's amazing. I think Lady Bird and my number 1 movie are both. They're both pretty short, obviously. As are a lot of A24 films, honestly.
Just off the top of my head.
You're trying to think what my number 1 is?
Yeah.
None of you have seen it.
Really? Can we?
I don't know. I mean, maybe Colin has.
Let's
because I got 29.
Let's take guesses.
You never know. I might have seen it. You never know.
It's entirely possible, but I'm pretty sure Thomas has not, and I don't think Colin.
You said it's short.
It's short.
Let me see. I think it's actually like 2 hours. Yeah, it's 2 hours.
2 hours.
So,
a 2-hour-long A24 film.
I think it might be my number 1. We'll see.
I mean, it's possible.
It is very possible.
Is it? I'm just gonna throw out a random guess. Is it Killing of a Sacred Deer?
It is not Killing of a Sacred Deer.
I'm refraining in case it is my number 1.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess I was kind of talking about Lady Bird, whatever. It's really good. It's something that I at least can sit through the entire way through. It's very relaxing. It's very interesting. Like I said, it's short. It's one of like the few movies that I can really just like sit all the way through, even on a rewatch, and just not get bored. And then my number 1, so, I mean, maybe Sebastian will get to this, is 20th Century Women.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I was going to say.
Yeah, I wasn't
well,
expecting
there you go.
that.
None of you have seen it. So, I mean, none of you have seen it, right?
No, I have no idea what that is.
I'm actually interested in it. It's on Netflix right now, right?
Possibly?
Let me look it up.
I don't know.
I got it.
I think it is.
All right, well, tell us about it. Tell us a little about it.
Right. So it's a coming-of-age story. So it was directed by Mike Mills, who I believe grew up in the 70s, like as a very young child in the 70s, like, you know, that was his prepubescent years. So it's set in 1979. Honestly, I'm not going to get into a huge overview, but it stars Elle Fanning, Greta Gerwig, and Annette Bening in major roles. And then like the kid is
the kid's a notable name too.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I thought
Lucas James Zuman.
Oh.
I do not know who that is. He's been in 6 films, according to Letterboxd.
I might just be wrong. I thought I was looking at the cast, and I thought I saw a notable name for the kid.
Yeah, not. So he is Annette Bening's son, and it's about 20th century women who all have different worldviews and are different ages, who are trying to raise him without a father figure. And then Billy Crudup is also in it, who, honestly, I feel like Billy Crudup is a really underrated actor. He hasn't been in a lot of great movies, but I feel like he's great in everything he's in. He's pretty naturalistic. He's just really a laid-back actor, and he never really goes for anything crazy, but I feel like he's pretty reliable.
He was in Alien.
Yeah, he's also he's also Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, right.
True.
I do not love the Watchmen film, although I like it more than some people, but I think he's easily the best part of that movie.
He just gave Sebastian an aneurysm.
Watchmen in general is one of my favorite stories of all time. So,
I mean, I like the comic and I like the movie. I just don't love the movie, I guess.
I love the show as well. So,
yeah, I like the show. I don't love the show.
All right.
Yeah, he's in Almost Famous, Big Fish. Whatever. Billy Crudup isn't really the main thing. Annette Bening and Greta Gerwig. What, Big Fish?
Well,
Okay,
in a second. Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe don't. Okay. But Annette Bening and Greta Gerwig are giving, I would say, both like Oscar-worthy performances, and neither of them were nominated. And
A24, man.
I mean, like, this is really subjective, but I think Annette Bening is giving. I mean, I'm hesitant to even say this, but like maybe the best performance I've ever seen on film. It's like,
wow.
It's just, I don't know. It's mind blowing. It's like incredible. It's a very stereotypical character, but it's written in a sort of weird way. I mean, she's like the mother, and she's like more of a strict mother than the other characters who are.
Yeah.
But she's, and like it's almost trite to say like, oh, you know, she's like a strict mother, but she's sympathetic, because that's like very much what Lady Bird is in a way. Like
I want to watch it.
She's great in it.
Yeah, it's on my watch list. I'm probably gonna check it out this week.
I've only seen it once, but it might crack like my top 10 movies of all time. It's really great.
Okay.
Okay, so that's my top 3.
All right, ready? Okay. Well, thank you, Noah, for reminding me. Actually, we'll get to that in a little bit. But anyway, my top 3. Number 3 is Uncut Gems. I thought Uncut Gems was fantastic, and I'm a big Adam Sandler fan. So just seeing Adam Sandler actually, like I always knew he could act, but I just love seeing Adam Sandler embrace his craziness and his just crazy drastic things. Anyway, I love it.
I used to say that I prefer his performance in Punch Drunk Love, but after rewatching Punch Drunk Love, and I like Punch Drunk Love more as a movie, but I think his performance in Uncut Gems.
No, I love Punch Drunk Love too.
Better, like it's just in a sense of the art of acting. Uncut Gems' performance is a lot better, but I think just in general, performance is fucking brilliant.
No, dude, he's just balls to the wall in the movie. I love it. Anyway, number 2, Hereditary. Again, I just hadn't been really, nothing in horror had really like prepared me for what I would see in Hereditary. Like it just shocked me, and that's just me purely. And I've seen a little too many horror movies. I can't even log how many horror movies I've seen on Letterboxd. I've seen so many, because I mean the first movie I want to make is a horror movie, but like Hereditary to me was just such a breath of fresh air in terms of horror, and just I hadn't seen anything like that. I not like just the visuals, the soundtrack, the slow build up. There's nothing prepared me really for what I was going to see in that movie. And it blew me away when I watched it with my friends. I was genuinely terrified. It really gripped me. It really just scared the shit out of me, honestly.
Was that in all of our top 10s?
Yes, it is my number 5.
It's my number 2.
I have not seen either Ari Aster movie.
Okay. Now it was number 6 for me.
So
I'm not a huge horror fan, but I feel like I'd like them.
Ari Aster, I feel like I know what your number 1 is then, Sebastian.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Okay,
It's coming out. It's
because you didn't like Midsummer.
No, I didn't like Midsummer as much as Hereditary,
Oh,
but I
yeah,
still like
I
it.
didn't
I still
prefer
like
it.
it.
Yeah.
Like
no,
I just kind of gave you some random like A24 movies I like because I don't really have a defined list of like, these are the A24 movies I like because I just kind of like I really like A24 a lot, but I haven't really put the thought into like which A24 movies I really really like the best. But my number one is going to come out of left field for all of you. It's Ex Machina. I think Ex Machina is an absolute masterpiece. I think it's phenomenal. I think Oscar Isaac is fantastic in it. I think the score is great. I think the score is great. I think the concept's great. I just love a good sci-fi, and Ex Machina just really blew me away. I mean, I love Blade Runner, so I mean, I just kind of love movies like that, and I just just my niche. That's what I love.
It's been a while since I've watched Ex Machina, but I feel like on rewatch,
I need to rewatch it too. I actually have it on Blu-ray. I need to see it sometime.
Is it still on Netflix? Because that's where I originally watched it.
I think so.
I hope so.
It was number 14 for me.
What do you think of Annihilation? It's number 11 for me.
I think Annihilation's really, really good, but I think it was a little too long. I think it could have a lot of it could have been trimmed down a little bit.
See, I didn't like Annihilation. I was really disappointed with Annihilation.
I feel like it's a very divisive film.
Exactly. I enjoyed
it.
I liked it, but it's not like I don't think it's like one of the best movies ever. I liked it.
I absolutely love the finale.
Yeah, finale, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, the finale was fantastic.
But everything that led up to it, I was bored and I could care less.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It could have been trimmed down a lot. Like, the ending was fantastic. It was definitely worth watching, though.
Well, this was a really long cast. But
this is our longest podcast.
Thanks to Michael for coming on for the news segment, and thanks for Noah for joining us.
Now, are you ready?
Now Sebastian's picking the movie.
It's Sebastian's pick the movie.
Noah reminded me, actually, of my original pick, and I'm going to go with it. So I was going to have us watch Looper, but I think that can wait. I think we're going to watch Big Fish because I absolutely adore Big Fish. It's one of my favorites.
It's been a while since I've watched it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
It's
been a couple years. Exactly. And Colin hasn't seen it. And I know we just did Sweeney Todd. I wasn't here for that, but I love Sweeney Todd a lot. And Big Fish is a very different Tim Burton movie compared to his other stuff. It's not – you'll see. Especially for Colin. I think Colin's like honestly going to really like this movie. Like it's not like a regular Tim Burton movie, and it has a lot of heart to it. Like I cried like a bitch the first time I watched it.
Yeah,
and
so did I.
Yeah, and I have to make that my pick. I absolutely adore it.
You said I was going to give Sweeney Todd a 2 out of 5. I gave it a 3. So
I gave it a 3 too. So yeah, what do you think we're going to give Big Fish?
I think you're all going to give Big Fish 4 stars.
4 stars. I feel like that's a good, like, if I were just to rate it off of my previous experience with it, I think that is what I'd give it. So
that's exactly what I'd give it to.
So I don't know if I'm going to be on next week's episode. I mean, I might have something else to do. I'm not sure how often I'm going to be on this, whatever, first time.
We'll see if the fans like you.
Yeah, sure.
Our huge array of fans.
Our huge following,
Yeah.
I mean, just in case I'm not on next time, which honestly, no idea. I love Big Fish. It is like top 2 Burton at least. Maybe not favorite, but definitely top 2. I love it. It's great.
What's number 1?
Right now I have Big Fish at number 1, but like when I'm thinking about it, like maybe Beetlejuice is better.
Yeah, it's also pretty fantastic.
I like Big Fish. Big Fish is my favorite Burton movie.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite movies, like top 50. I love it.
Yeah. I would agree with that. It's great. Okay.
Good cast, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
Post Pro Podcast, episode 6, coming to the close. Until next time. All right.